out there. So it was like, well, it's out there, but now there's thousands of videos of me doing all kinds of weird shit somewhere. And I just have to live with that. And I have to live with like the consequences. You know, I have like a stalker who found some nudes and has threatened me with them and knows my family. So it's like there are consequences, and I've felt them. But the biggest consequence for me was the fact that I wasn't doing something with my mind or my spirit. It was completely robotic, transactional sexuality. I mean, there was fun elements
Don't
to
you
it,
say
but
that
overall,
about your pussy.
it was not. I was in a really dark place when I was a cam model full time. I became agoraphobic, and I think this happened to a lot of young models, and you can't relate to the people around you anymore who have normal jobs. You can't talk about it with most people. Even if they're open-minded, they don't understand the experience. It's extremely isolating.
Yeah, but the isolating part, the rest of it, I'm not gonna like. Oh yeah, obviously that's horrible. The isolating part, I don't think that's fair. That it's that part is just if the only thing that's wrong with it is that it's isolating, then we as a society need to get the fuck over it and stop treating them like shit. Other than that, you know, like the other shit. Like,
Well, no, that's absolutely not the only thing. I also
right.
don't think it's serving society in any beneficial way. I view it as, like I said, drug dealing. Like, I could hate my drug dealing.
All right,
Yes,
I
to a
actually
certain
have
extent. Yes, he was
prepared
fat. I could have died, you know. But
opening statement
I also
here.
empathize with the drug dealer because I
In
knew
the
he
wake
didn't
of
have
this new
many options
progressive
in his
era,
life,
we have declared
and
God
it's
to
really
be
hard
dead,
to be,
and
you
with
know,
the
40
death
years
of God,
old
we have
and
cast off
get
the shackles
through
of the
life
old, and while men
blind, you
grew
know, and we
stronger,
have like
having
7
cast
kids
the
too.
weight
Like,
of the
here's
chains
my point.
aside, the women have painted
I'm
their chains gold
pro-nuance.
and wore them
Here's my
not
point.
on their hands and feet, but rather around their necks. And
When you say that, I feel
unfortunately,
like
it has
it's
cut
just
off
not true.
circulation to some
But
crucial areas of the
anyway,
brain.
my problem.
Women who follow this idea that they deserve exactly what they want in a partner tend to seek out the material desires and appearance they want from a man and then work backwards from
You
there.
brought that on yourself.
When the guy ends up being less than what they had in mind, they inevitably break up, and the idea that I deserve better is reinforced. To quote the great poet of our time, Bo
I'm
Burnham,
not saying
I won't
that
settle for less
there
than
are a lot of
perfect.
the
We
thing.
want
I'm
perfect
very
children, a
much
perfect life, a perfect
yeah.
husband, or a
I would say
perfect wife,
very
but deep down we know we don't
and
deserve it.
what I
If
think
you want
a lot
love,
of people
lower your
say,
expectations a
certain
few,
people, if they are
because
doing,
Prince
because
Charming would never
life
settle
is
for
very
you.
complicated and very
If
hard,
you want love,
and
just pick a guy and love
it's
him.
kind of dark to
And if
think,
he's got a
like,
thing for feet,
you
say
know, when I
fuck
see a
it,
homeless
sweep
person
me
on the
off him.
street and I know
I yield
if
my
I give them
time.
money for drugs, or if I give them money, it's gonna go for drugs. But sometimes I do it anyway because I think that's the only comfort in their life right now, and that's really fucked up. But that's
No.
the
Hey,
reality that
No,
we're
so
in.
yeah,
So I view it
I
as
don't
in the
agree.
same moral standing by.
Froggy
I'm
Style,
sorry,
thank you
saying
for
legal
gifting a
standing.
membership.
I don't agree with that moral philosophy or axiom where like harm reduction, like you give the
Smith didn't even say anything yet.
Comes to her door and says, "You know, the price for this house is way too high. I know you think that these gold birds in your big backyard is so special and so wonderful, but really, as a homeowner, I don't really care about that. In fact, most house buyers don't care about your garden or the doorknobs or the little gold birds that you painted in your bathroom. And really, you would be happier if you just sold your house to me at this price instead of waiting for this extraordinary price for somebody else to buy your house." And so I want you to think about what you want as the neighbor to Molly. Do you want Molly to sell her house to the man that is beleaguering her front doorstep, telling her how much her house sucks and how she should really devalue the house and sell it for a lower price? How does that benefit you? Because here's what will happen. If Molly sells her house to person B, then what happens is not only is her house value devalued, your house is also devalued. And not just your house, but the value of every other house that is on that neighborhood street is also devalued, because now you've sold that house for a lower price than what she actually believed it was worth. And so we can, and I want to lean into like this metaphor, and we could talk about it more. But I think that what Eldrazi and what Smeth, I don't know what Smeth is going to say, but at least what Eldrazi has said tonight, I don't think that it's merely bad, because I think it's because it's bad for women's personal happiness as you like looking for a dating partner. I think it's bad for women in general and for society in general across the board for women to be less picky and less choosy.
Okay, thank you for that. Hey, as long as I get to play in the big backyard, I'm good. Okay, we love big backyards here. But thanks for being here, Fairy Queen. We'll get into it as we go. Next up, Smeth. Go ahead.
Right. I agree. I think it is bad for women to be less picky and less choosy, and it's good for them to be more picky. And I don't think it's good for men. I think it's bad for men. I think that women are... the whole concept of who deserves what is not. It's just a very abstract. Doesn't mean anything. But in the reality, women, the large gametes have a lot more power in the reproductive choice process, and because of that power, it is leveraged in a way that makes men feel like shit. And a lot of men grow a lot of resentment because of this. And I think it is the source of a lot of misogyny and hatred towards women and resentment. And I don't like it. It makes me feel bad. I don't want to. So I think one of the biggest problems for women in society at large is the competition that men have amongst each other. We're constantly like when we make society to get rid of rape, rape is one side of a two-sided coin, where rape and male competition are the two parts of a solution to a reproductive problem. And we've only gotten rid of one of that, and we've kept we don't care about leaving men into the in this lifestyle of perpetual toil and struggle and fighting just to get access to a woman so that she can spend your money or do whatever the fuck. So yeah, I think that it is. It would be bad for women to stop being so picky and leveraging their sex, but also it would free them up to have other priorities other than their sexual value. And I mean, potentially could be good for them, but yeah, in any obvious way, it's going to be bad for them. And I still advocate for that.
Okay. Stardust, go ahead. What you got?
Okay, I don't think it's necessarily a bad thing for women to be picky. In fact, I think our very survival depends on it. When you look at the crime statistics between men and women, I'm sorry to say, but men seem to carry out a vast majority of violent crimes, whether that is murder, homicide, whether that's rape, whether that's assault. So yes, as a woman, you should be picky, and we can say that women should be settling all we want. But how many women do you know who've been ready to settle down with a partner, and that partner themselves is not ready to settle down? Like it's a very, very common occurrence. So either you've got dudes who are willing to people who are unwilling to settle down, who are willing to string a girl along for like 7-8 years while never putting the ring on her finger. And you've got a bunch of single women who are navigating a dating sphere with a bunch of dudes who are statistically are much more likely to rape them and kill them than they are in reverse, right? Like, let's be real. There is a biological difference between males and females. Males on average are stronger. Males on average are better at fighting. And males on average, for some reason, are perverted. They're into the most perverted shit. They are into they I don't know why they have to fight with each other all the time. You can say, oh, men are expendable, all of that. Who's the one who created that problem for men? other men. That's your answer. Yeah, women have to be picky. This whole don't be picky thing. Well, if we stop being picky, then a whole lot more of us are going to end up dead in ditches. So that's my thought on this one.
Well, we're going for the extremes right off the bat. Gang, we're going to open this up. Go ahead if you got thoughts. If you can't get in for whatever reason, just raise your hand and I'll try to get you in. But floor's open. Go ahead.
The only reason that we think that women are not horny is because they have to withhold this information, not only just from other people, but from themselves. We don't teach them to even embrace or express or consider their sexuality, because their sexuality is something that has to be welled and dammed up, because behind that dam is a fucking raging river of fucking sexuality that has to be trickled out with a very delicate faucet, because if it comes out at all, men will fucking jump at it because we're in constant competition. We're fucking so eager to get that attention and that sexual attention from women that just the slightest bit will make a man go insane.
We
And
don't
that's
think
the
women
world
are
that we
horny?
live in. I absolutely do think they're horny. I just said I think that there's a raging river of horniness that is dammed up.
Sorry, I
that
thought
we
you
can-
started with the reason why we don't think that women are horny.
Yeah, is because they have to repress it to protect themselves from men.
Oh.
We don't teach them how to be sexual people. We don't encourage it. They're like, women don't even know how to like masturbate well.
Okay. I guess noted.
Well, it's
but I
not
guess
intuitive.
I want to redirect a little bit and ask, right? With the rising rates of unhappiness across the board, right? With the rising rates of loneliness across the board, right? Should women settle more? Like, I run into a lot of women who will tell me this, right? That they can't find anyone worth their time, right? But then when you dig into it, turns out they have 3 or 4 guys that are more than willing to get with them. They just don't want those specific guys. They want something else. So would it be good to lower our standards, women? What do you think?
No, I think that the loneliness problem that men are talking about is something that women have always had. There's always been a loneliness problem for women. We just accepted it as status quo. So for women, what our loneliness is that we still, even though we have entered the workforce, we still do the brunt of the household work, the domestic labor. We still do the brunt of the child rearing. And on top of that, we're working equal amount of hours as our male counterparts, even though we're not getting as paid as much as them usually because we take off more time to deal with domestic duties, ironically. So yeah, we can talk about it, but like men have an average of like, I think it's something like 10 more hours of free time per week than their female counterparts when they're in a marriage. Women I have seen move countries, move cities, move states to go be with their male partner, leave all their family behind. That was the tradition for a huge part of human history, was for women to be given away by her family to the family of the man she's marrying. And guess what? She's not going to see her family very much anymore. You didn't think there was a loneliness problem then?
So you're
There
saying that?
probably was.
Are you saying that marriage is bad?
And today, women women are, have more rights than ever. Women are sharing more domestic labor than ever with their male counterparts, and we're still getting the raw end of the deal. We're still dealing with the fact that we still are doing the brunt of the domestic work, the brunt of the child rearing, the brunt of all these other things, and our male counterpart gets to come home and drink a beer and watch TV when he comes home. Don't even get me started on stay-at-home moms. So go ahead.
This is kind of silly. So part of a lot of what you're describing right now is women not feeling entitled to the correct thing, which should be negotiation power in a relationship. So if you're doing all this extra work, you should be feeling entitled to have a voice in your relationship, and you probably shouldn't be. Probably should be drawing the line. I don't want to be in a relationship where I have no voice, where I can't negotiate. I should feel safe to negotiate. This, I think, is a pretty easy bar to clear if this is something that you're looking for. But when you have all of these standards which you're trying to meet, like he has to be like have these physical characteristics, like he has to be like X amount attractive, however you want to word that. He has to make X amount of money, and I have to be able to have this kind of negotiation power. You're setting yourself up to find a very narrow set of people, and then in addition to that as well, they also are going to have to want to be with you. I just think that
Okay.
sacrificing
let
some of
me-
the more superficial aspects of what you're looking for in favor of something that we might call love would probably be, if you
Go
want to
Fairy
consider
Queen,
that
go Fairy
settling.
Queen. He's repeating himself.
This
Go.
is, I think that this is probably where you need to cut some of these losses at.
Okay.
So
okay,
I-
if I can. Oh, sorry. Go ahead. Go ahead, Fairy Queen. Sorry.
So I just wanted to talk about each of these things. So when you say, Elder Drazi, that you think that like women are entitled, that they have an inappropriate sense to what they're entitled to. So it's not inappropriate to feel like you need to have negotiating power in a relationship. I think we can all agree. I think that's something
Yeah,
that you
that's
are entitled to, regardless of gender. Like if you're in a
that's what I
relationship.
said
So-
actually.
Yeah,
Specifically,
no, and I would agree with you. I'm just clarifying. So I would agree. So the specific and types of entitlement that you think are inappropriate that women have in today are a heightened care for physical characteristics and materialistic objects. So money.
No,
Is that
it's holding all of these values and saying like all these values have to
So
be
what are
met
the values?
simultaneously. So somebody who's emotionally mature, to the
Okay.
point to where you can feel safe having negotiating power, financial, like not even just like stability. It seems like financial, like exuberant success financially, like above average appearance, and then whatever kinds of like character traits of masculinity that you specifically find attractive as well. You're narrowing the field down more and more and more, and I think ultimately not being able to cut some of these less important that are going to end up being less important to you when when a family member dies and you need somebody to be there for you or to live your life with day to day. I think that this just going to mean that you're going to spend more time lonely, and you're gonna
Right.
Well, but if I can respond to that, like a couple of things, Elder
Yeah, and
Drazi.
then we need to get Smith and Stardust in. So
Yeah.
yeah.
So I just wanted to respond to a couple of things. So the first one is above average appearance. I
Mhm.
could be wrong, but I'm pretty sure that there are plenty of stats that show that men tend to care more about physical appearance in comparison to women. Women are more likely to date physically unattractive like partners as opposed to men. Men are more likely to value physical beauty and physical characteristics as opposed to women. So if you're
wait.
going
This
to
isn't
say,
saying I didn't say that men shouldn't do this as well. I'm talking.
Well-
We're here to talk specifically about what women
I
feel
understand.
entitled to.
I understand, but like well, you understand, but because the title of the show is Women's Entitlement in Dating, we're looking for things that are specific to women, like they are especially entitled. So if you're going to talk about physical characteristics, we have to acknowledge that both men and women, it seems, first of all, both seem to feel entitled, like men even more so in comparison to women, to having a physically attractive partner. So if you're going to call that out as a particularly bad thing about women, that doesn't seem to be true. It seems to be more true for men as compared to
It's
women.
it's holding it alongside all of these things, and I'm saying that this is one of the things
Well,
that you
let's
should be
talk
more
about the
willing to
other things
cut.
too. Well, but just to be clear, just to plant a flag, right? Like just right here. So above average appearance, men are more likely to value that in comparison to women. Finally, the other three things. So emotional maturity. We can really delve into like what you mean when you say that, but I don't think that telling women to value having an emotionally mature partner, that seems like a weird thing to say, that you're too entitled if you want that. I think that it probably would be actively bad to tell women, to tell anyone, to tell men or women that you should settle for an emotionally immature partner for a couple of reasons. One of them is, as Star has
I
mentioned
advocate for
earlier, I
I was
understand.
just
I'm
listing
just
all these
saying.
criteria.
I don't think.
I'm going
that's
through
a
each
good
of the
thing.
criteria
I think we can all agree
specifically.
that's a good thing to want to
Yes.
have an emotionally mature partner.
That's one of the things
I
that I'm
under-
saying. One of the things you should. These are one of the things that should be a primary focus.
He's
Well, I
just
understand.
saying- he's just what he's saying. I'm not saying necessarily, but he's saying that women are entitled. They feel entitled to the wrong things, and
Which
I
are
would
what?
add-
Too many things all at the same time, and that some losses need to be cut somewhere if you don't want to end up being lonely.
Just some data. They've done studies on this. They've asked both women and men to list what do you want in a partner. Like, what are your desires? What are the things that you're looking for? Women's lists are far longer than men's
Yes.
lists.
But what
Right.
are the
Yes,
inappropriate
Far
we
things
longer.
on that
we are
list?
in danger way more than males are. Let's be real, right?
It's not
We
just
are-
that. You
let-
also just
let's-
have the power more. You also
We do have the
are more
power.
important reproductively. You genuinely biologically have more power.
Yeah, men biologically have more power, but also
No,
women
women.
are.
in
Oh,
the
oh,
sexual
sorry.
selection.
You mean in sexual selection, but when it
Yes.
comes to physical strength, men are stronger. Men are pose more of a danger to women than women do to men, right?
Yeah.
Even when we get if we're choosing a partner to be with, we are also choosing somebody who to be with us and to protect us while we are in the most vulnerable parts of our lives when we get pregnant. And let me tell you guys, domestic violence usually starts for the first time when a woman gets pregnant. There's statistics on this. It is crazy. There's a huge amount of evidence to show that for some reason when women get pregnant, domestic violence either starts or escalates if it was already happening. And it
Nobody's
escalates
saying
to the
that
next
that shouldn't
level.
be part of
why don't
the
women
calculation. A big
why
part
don't
of it.
women want to date men in wheelchairs then? I mean, this is just facetious.
Because
I
they
mean,
want because when you're looking for security, you're not looking specific just for
you
security,
need
and
him to
that
be
he's
able to
not going.
fight off the other men that are going to come to rape you.
Yeah, exactly. You don't
But
you
that's
need
not the
somebody
world
who
we
is
live
not
in
going to
anymore.
fucking kill you. Not somebody who's not going to kill you, and somebody who can also pull their weight in the relationship while you are in your most vulnerable state in your life.
Yeah, but
And fight off
I'm
other
saying
men.
like a guy in a wheelchair with a decent job or whatever, and he's like not like ugly or whatever. He's just a normal guy. He's a decent guy, but he's just in a wheelchair. You're gonna want to date him way less. I mean, understand you're not gonna have as good sex. You're not being to be able to do things together as much. I understand,
Yeah,
but
is he going to be able to help you
but it's
pull
not
his
because
weight with the
it's the
kids?
protection. You don't need the man to really. You can just get it. You should you shouldn't depend on your man to protect. You should get a gun. You really should.
Okay, I'm going
I don't
to
disagree
just real
with
quick.
you
I
on
am going to
that.
prioritize super chats today because I'm trying to make enough money to get Dragon's Dogma 2 tonight. So if you want to give me money to get Dragon's Dogma 2 tonight, please consider super chatting. So I'm going to prioritize those. Let me read them off. $2 from Testicle Johnson. Notice there are 3 men and 2 women. Sexist. Thank you for the $2. And $10 from the Observing Otaku. Stardust, your gender has the opportunity most of the time to get a dependable guy, but most squander it for the feminist lie or someone who is much more valuable than they are. You're privileged. Okay, thank you.
Let me
Okay,
just ask.
wonderful.
Can I just ask a question? So there are a couple of things that like I really want to respond to like what you're saying, Elder Drazi. So what you're saying is it's not just one of these different traits; it's all of them in connection, right? But which is fine. But I would say 2 things to that.
It's
One,
too much. Essentially,
okay,
is
well,
my argument.
okay, well, a couple of things, right? So number one, because we are the sex that assumes most of the risk, like in terms of pregnancy, assumes most of the risk, is more likely to become that we are more likely to be single parents. We take on the physical burden of pregnancy in the first place. It makes sense for us to want to be choosier. And not only that, if you're going to say that we should be less choosy, you've mentioned loneliness as an example. But whose loneliness? Men's loneliness?
No.
Society's loneliness?
Okay.
Women's
The
loneliness?
specific woman who's
Can I-
being too picky to find a person to
Well,
be
but
with.
hang on.
So
Can I jump in
women-
here?
you're
It's 'cause
you asking me the
Well, but-
question.
Well, but like, okay, the reason I'm asking you this, right, as I understand it, in comparison to women, men are far more lonely in comparison to
Okay,
women. Would you
sure,
agree
but
with
I'm
that?
That's probably the case, but I'm specifically talking about do I think that women are too entitled? And when we're talking about the kinds of women
you
that are
think
in
it
the
would be-
example piece, if you have all of these things, yeah, you're probably going to end up being single. And if it is a priority for you to have a family, especially if one of your priorities is financial success, having somebody who's not as financially successful and being in a live-in relationship so that you can build wealth together is going to give you a much greater edge if you do that earlier in life than
So-
later in life. I just think there's a
So,
misalignment of priorities.
I want to challenge a couple of things. So one of them is like the idea that single women are less likely to be happy. Again, I
Didn't say
someone
that.
can
Said
well, but
lonely.
like, but
and all the
right,
things
but
that
like,
come along
but
with
why
being
do we
lonely.
care? Right, well, like being sad and unhappy, right? Like that
Well,
would be a side
the
effect.
Part of
surely.
it is like financially thriving. Like I said, even if you have somebody that's not super financially successful, having another person who's living in the house helping
I
contribute to
understand.
bills and all that.
I
is
understand.
part
I
of it.
understand. The point that I'm trying to like elucidate here is if we're concerned about loneliness, right? If we're concerned specifically about these women on average today in society are thriving far more than they have been in the distant past. We are more likely to go to college. We are more likely to graduate from college. We are more likely to graduate from high school. Rates of teenage pregnancy have dropped precipitously. There are in many ways women are flourishing today. And so to tell women that in the face of us flourishing in the 21st century, that we should put this on the shelf because we might be able to find happiness with some men, that seems to be
Didn't say that.
seems well, but
It's like
I
every
understand
single
you're not
argument that I've
it's
made you've mischaracterized and try to hold me to account for
I'm not
when I
not
don't
trying
feel
to
like you
I'm not
properly
trying to
framed any of my
mischaracterize.
arguments.
I'm not trying to mischaracterize you. I'm trying to like look at. You're saying this is. The
I
bag of
understand you're
stuff
not
that
trying
is
to,
what-
and I'm taking that in good faith and trying to inform you that you are, and I have, and you've sort of
And he's
like moved
angry.
past that each
Well,
time.
hang on. Like,
And just right now, your
trying
response to
to
me
look at
telling you
all
that
of-
you are is saying, I'm not trying to, but
I'm-
like you're not
okay,
really remedying it either.
Okay, well, I'm telling you bluntly. I think that you telling women to shorten their lists is not just bad for men. Is not just bad for women. I think it's bad for society. That's my short response to you.
I
And I know
wanna-
Smith is
Okay,
trying to get it. I'll come in.
Yeah, I
later.
want to toss
So
it to Smith and Stardust.
I don't
please.
have the statistics right in front of me, but I hope you can just trust me on it's not that big of a claim. The men are way more lonely in their 20s, and women are way happier being alone in their 20s. Then when you get to age 30 and beyond, then women who are not dating and they're single become way more lonely, and men who are single at 30 stop being lonely. Like a lot of them stop caring about dating, so it completely swaps. So the dating choices of women actually fuck them over later in life when they're going to wish that they actually had a partner.
Yes, but like even if that's true, even if I were to accept that, do you think it's better for society at large that we encourage women to remedy that by choosing to date men who they otherwise wouldn't want to be with?
It's complicated.
Ooh.
Like
Just
so-
really,
so
really
we need
quick,
to-
like
we need-
one
we need
sentence.
men to-
I'm not advocating for society at large. I'm advocating for the individual here. Continue, Smith.
Well,
I'm
Sure,
advocating for
but,
society
okay,
at large.
here's the
I-
issue.
Sorry, Smith.
Let Smith go. I know that
Yeah,
Stardust feels
yeah.
entitled to interrupt you, but we're gonna give it to Smith, and then we'll give it to Stardust, and we'll
There's
go.
problems with men, and we need to fix those problems with men. But I think that the pickiness that men are upset about, and it's I mean, honestly, if you're an ugly man, you can find a woman. If you are a poor man, you can still find a woman. It's harder and stuff. It's just that it is possible. It's just that men feel devalued and pathetic and just unloved. Well, that's the feeling that you carry with you just by being a man, and you feel that all the time. And when you see women getting just by being a woman, having a vagina, being pretty, putting on makeup, and then everybody loves her and gives her attention, it makes you really, really hate women deep down. And that's what we're really talking about here. Women do have more risk. But the matter of fact is, men are stratified on the like dumber and smarter end of the spectrum. Women are like a little bit above average in the bell curve. Okay, and that's because men take on more risk. Okay, men do risky shit. Women don't go for men that don't take. Women don't go for the low risk average Joe guy, especially when their sexual selection like power is so high, when they're like peak fertility in their like fucking early 20s and shit. They're not going for, they want to get what like some guy who's like taking on a lot of risk. That's the type, and those guys are more likely to be abusive. So I think that there are plenty of low risk men that women could go for that they just don't go for.
Stardust.
so
Okay, if I can, all right. Let me just read you some statistics here. Okay, this is 2011 statistics from the FBI. All right, males constitute 98.9% of those arrested for forcible rape. Males consisted of 87.9% of those arrested for robbery. Males constituted 85% of those arrested for burglary. Males constituted 83% of those arrested for arson. Males constituted 81.7% of those arrested for vandalism. Males constituted 81.5% of those arrested for motor vehicle theft. Males constituted 79.7% of those arrested for offenses against family and children. Males constituted 77.8% of those arrested for aggravated assaults.
Oh yeah.
With these statistics, that you have to think, yes, you're talking. Smith was talking about like, oh, women can just put on makeup and everybody loves them. That's not necessarily the case. Right?
Also,
Because
we should hate men, is what you're saying. We should hate them.
we should hate men. We should
Yeah,
not
fuck
hate
them.
men, but shouldn't hate men, but we should be scared of them because they're
Yeah.
scary.
Men are more
and
aggressive. Sounds like
even-
you're making
So
a case that no women should date them ever.
So when men
No,
feel
like,
bad because they feel
I'm
like they're so
Star is making the
pathetic and
case that like
worthless,
women should be picky.
Okay, one at a time, one at a time, one at a time, one at a
Interrupt
time,
me.
one at a time.
Okay,
Stardust,
I let
finish up.
everybody else. I let everybody else speak their piece. Okay, don't interrupt me, or I will change these crime stats. Okay, I will make it a little bit more skewed in women's direction. Anyways, so when we're talking, Smith is talking about like. Women can just put on makeup and they're loved. That's not necessarily the case. Most men don't even know the beginning of the amount of effort that women put into their appearance. It's like your whole fucking life, right? And you start doing it from a pretty young age. And you know that your entire self-worth is based off of your looks.
women
because
have
nobody
no
is-
idea the
nobody-
amount of
Wait,
effort
let
that
me
men
finish.
have to put
Let
in
me
to have
finish.
value
Let me
in
finish.
society.
Smith, let me finish. I let you speak.
Nothing.
uninterrupted.
The amount of effort you need to put in to have value in society is nothing compared to the amount that men have to
You
put
have
in.
no fucking idea. You have no fucking idea. Please shut up and let me
Nothing.
finish. I didn't interrupt you.
Nothing.
I didn't interrupt you. And
Go
see,
ahead,
here's a
Stardust.
prime
Small
example.
gammy.
A prime example where I let you speak and you are not letting me speak. So,
Well,
secondly,
then do fucking interrupt me next time.
that maybe I will interrupt you. Maybe I will do. Maybe I will do one of these aggravated assaults. Okay. Maybe I'll give women a little bit more percentage
Yeah.
there. What I'm saying is that like that is
Doesn't
such
seem
a
statistically
surface level
likely.
criticism to have of women when we're selecting for a partner. Again, we're going up against all of those statistics. Again, remember that like 1 in 4 women have been sexually assaulted in some sort of manner, right? And so and knowing that also like something like 70% of women have been cheated on, right? So we are going up against all of these statistics. We don't want to die, right? And look, I'll agree with you. When women are much younger in their early 20s and they're like looking for a guy over 6 feet, I think that's fucking stupid too, right? That's like a super shallow thing. But as women get older, I think that women being selective about men is a good thing. And I don't think women are selective enough. I see way too many women who are in relationships, marriages where they never come. There are way too many women who have died without ever having an orgasm. There's way too many women who are married for the rest of their lives in abusive relationships. There are way too many women who are doing all of the housework and all of the child work, and nothing is being done by their male counterpart. So yes, I do think men have it hard. Don't get me wrong, but like women have to be selective, and I think they should be more selective.
Okay,
Wait,
let me
okay,
get to these super chats before you respond. Okay, we got a few. $2 from Cryborn to say, why are so many men unattractive as partners now? $10 from Zephyr Hash. Comparing men versus women on crime statistics is like comparing men versus women in PP length. Men are always going to commit more crime, but total crime in general has gone down, yet women be scared. And then $5 from Rad Wombat. I love crime stats. Men sound pretty horrible. Can Star please break those down by race so we can know which men to hate in particular?
Yeah, we
Jesus
can break them down by
Christ.
race, but it's still not going to change anything. If you look at European statistics on crime, European countries where it's like mostly homogenous populations, even then, men commit primarily most of the violent crimes. So yeah,
They also
you can
primarily
look
commit
at it.
them against other men. These aren't violent
do,
crimes that are
but
committed from men to women.
but
So I'm
that
just
is
saying
a
that decreases
problem.
the
That is a
risk. You're
problem
presenting the
created by
risk.
men.
You're okay.
That is
But it's not a
problem
problem.
created by men.
But what I'm talking about is, sure, you're talking about a problem created by men, but you're not talking about how much of that problem is a problem for women.
Well, but
A
hang
lot
on.
of
Wait
it
a
is.
second.
A
Wait
lot
a
of
second.
it
Wait
is.
a
It's
If
fine.
if only a third of that
Almost
is directed at women,
almost
it sounds a
almost
lot different.
almost 80% of offenses against family and children are committed by males. I think it's very reasonable for women to be cautious and
Okay.
selective.
And even if that never happens, Elder Drowsy, let me just ask you this. Suppose like you do marry somebody, like if you're a woman and you marry a man who is a violent person, but he's never been violent towards children, and he's never been violent towards you, but he gets constantly into fist fights. He gets into brawls at the bar. He is violent towards other men. Is that the sort of man that you think,
I
that
think
you would advise a
that-
woman to get married to?
No, it's really funny. All the things that you have tried to point out that are like expectations you think think women shouldn't hold are ones that I absolutely do. I think that But I also think that people should hold these. People should not want to be with somebody who is violent, who doesn't let them have a voice in their relationship, who doesn't value them as a person. I think that everybody, if you're going to be in a relationship, should be working towards any of those things that aren't up to where you want them to be, but things are good enough to where like you want to work on them. It should be a priority for you, or you should get the fuck out of there. I'm all for everybody being safe and feeling safe in a relationship.
As much as she is speaking past you, like what you've claimed that you've said she's done, you are also speaking past her because you have to you just have to agree women do take on way more risk. You have to.
Yeah, but but I've never said otherwise. I'm saying that I'm not saying that.
When you say people, what you're doing is you're smuggling in that the risk is basically the same. It doesn't matter. It's just people should make these choices. But no, actually,
no. That's not what I'm saying. I'm saying that I hold this as a value, as something that should be looked at in relationships uniformly, regardless of risk. These are the values that should be among the most important, no matter what the other circumstances are. These are evergreen values that you need to hold. And it is true, of course, that if my wife and I got into a fist fight, I'm going to fucking body her. I'm twice her size. She's a tiny little lady. Thankfully, I'm a pretty chill dude, and I don't do stuff like that.
Lucky for her.
Here's the thing.
Lucky for me. My ass would be going to jail.
Before you go, Stardust, $5 for Testicle Johnson. Look how emotional these men are getting and speaking over women. Very interesting. Thank you for the $5. $5 more for Rabid Wombat. Star said she could answer the question, but then didn't.
That super chat.
Which race of men in the United States should we watch the closest due to their criminality? Stardust, you're up.
Obviously, from this, it's Mr. Girl fans.
Yourself, and you can see that that poor communities tend to have the most violence, and you can see what populations populate those poor communities, right? Which is who is disproportionately represented there. But again, I will reiterate my stance that even in European countries where it is a mostly homogenous population, men still commit vast majority of violent crimes. Secondly, I agree with you, Elderdrazi. I think that women should be looking for things in a partner that are going to be long lasting, right? But unfortunately, even when women take all the precautions in the world to select somebody who they think is going to take care of them, to select somebody who they think is going to respect them, when you so many women when they become wives and then they get pregnant, so many of them for some reason see a completely different side of that man. You never know. And to be honest, you really never know when a man is going to or if a man is going to become a violent person.
If I may, Stardust, you said something earlier. You said something earlier that I want to interrogate. You said that women should pick men who protect them, who are able to fight off attackers, etc. Yes. Right? That's why we wouldn't want people in a wheelchair. And then you're surprised. And then you are surprised, right? When people who are able to do violence, right, and who are aggressive at doing violence, suddenly are more likely to be violent in the home. I mean, I understand that.
Turn it and use it on your pregnant wife. Is that?
Look,
is that
I'm not
really,
saying that's a good thing.
Guy in the wheelchair ain't gonna be his pregnant wife.
If you date Mike Tyson, you can't be surprised.
If you have women are more likely to pick like MMA fighters, people who are bodybuilders, things like that. Those are much more likely to be selected by women,
right?
And they're much more likely to do all these things, right? So it sounds like women are selecting the wrong people.
Yeah, women have responsibility.
Let her respond.
You're completely dropping.
Let her respond. Hold on, let her respond, please.
Wait. The problem is, I'm not asking for a man who is violent. I'm asking a man who has the capability to protect you if something goes horribly wrong. I'm not asking for a man who is going out and getting into fights and is actually violent by nature. I'm asking for a man who has the capability to protect you if you're both are in an alley and some guy tries to rape you. That's all. There's a huge difference between selecting a guy who does UFC, as his main thing, and like does fucking wrestling and choosing a guy who is capable of protecting you.
I think Smith has a good point. If you take on the agency of protecting yourself, maybe that's not as big of a factor anymore.
I don't think
Or
that- I don't
or
think
maybe
that
we
idea
just have to
either. I think all
admit that it's
women-
not actually about
I
being
think-
protected, because you could get a
I
gun and
think
protect
all
yourself,
women-
but it's
I
really
think-
just about the
I think when
attraction.
it
Do you
comes
think
to
that-
guns, I think when it comes to guns, and I think it's so funny here because we have so many men on this panel who keep interrupting and talking over me. But when I think that when it comes to guns, actually, we should have a law where it is only legal for women to own guns, not men, because men are the ones who are
Yes.
doing all of the gun violence, right? So.
And I'll just a brief like throwing this in, okay? So Elder Drazi, like women should just take more initiatives to try to protect themselves. They should have a pistol. They should have, and I agree with you. I think that like women
Yeah,
should
you
own
should.
firearms, right? But the problem is that like especially like with the example that Stardust is giving, right? Like, am I supposed to like have the Glock next to me as I'm breastfeeding my child? Am I supposed to carry it around with me as I'm walking and like cooking dinner? Am I supposed to carry it with me as I go out to take out the trash or when he's coming home from work? That's not reasonable, right? It's not a reasonable thing to ask. And like what Star is
Well,
specifically referring
Did
to
you
is
just give an
domestic
example where
violence within
he's
the
not
home.
there and can't protect you? Then
No,
yeah,
but
if
Star
you're
is
that
just-
worried about
Talking
your safety,
what-
you
you're
should probably have the
talking about
gun next to
selecting
you.
a man who is not going to all of a
No,
sudden
she
start
literally was
taking
talking
risks to you
about
when you
while
get
he's on
pregnant.
his way home, and I'm just trying to figure out what's actually being said to me, because it feels like a lot of this stuff is nonsense. Like
It's not nonsense.
it is, because
It's not nonsense.
No, it's not.
Living,
Okay, I
life
can
as a
explain
human
why
is
it's
way
nonsense.
more dangerous.
okay, but-
In your head, at least, you know.
Okay, so here's the
So-
thing. Wick brought up a good point, and so did Smith, that if you are a guy who a big part of your lifestyle or even your job is being combative or physically aggressive, these are the ones that can
Again, I
protect you,
already
and they're also
clarified that point. You didn't listen to me.
you're not listening to me, so I'm gonna.
You didn't understand my clarification.
No, you don't know
I
what I'm
didn't
gonna say.
ask you something-
You don't know what I'm going to say. You're
No,
trying
no,
to
no,
fix
no,
something
no,
I
you
haven't said
disagree.
yet.
Hold on, let's
Nature.
I will
I haven't even said it.
Stardust, no, guys, Stardust,
I-
do you
We're not
disagree or
asking for
do you
men.
disagree or agree? Do you disagree or agree that women are more likely to date someone who's a fighter? Disagree or
Someone
agree?
who's I don't know
Fighter.
the statistics on that.
What's your
Well,
intuition?
That's
I
what he
personally
that's what he
wouldn't.
wants to
I
know.
personally wouldn't. I don't want to date a guy.
We
who's
didn't ask
got,
what you
like,
personally think. What's your intuition about women at large?
My intuition is that most women are going to look at a guy who spends his free time getting into fights, and probably not want to date a guy with multiple concussions.
So
we
you
want
think
a
that
man
fighters
who
have
is capable,
a hard time
wait,
getting women?
We want a man who is capable of protecting us, not a man who has a habit of getting into fights. There's a huge difference.
I can't tell, like, it just this feels dishonest. But anyways, what I'm saying is that if there is an issue where the person who can do this is also the person that can harm you, this can be remedied by taking some agency for self-protection. I'm not
Like
saying
what?
how, because you can have somebody who is less apt of protecting you in general if you have more agency over being able to protect yourself. Now this
How?
criteria is not as important. How?
How do you do
can
that?
take
How do you take
Do
agency
you
over
actually-
protecting yourself?
Are you gonna ask me again while I'm trying to answer you? I don't know what's
There's no
going
need to
on
be
here.
aggressive. I'm just asking a question like you didn't answer
I
it before.
just asked a question. I just wanted to know. So
I'm
okay,
I'm
so you
I'm
can.
answering you.
He's biding time so we can think. Okay, about it. hold on. Okay,
I just
okay. Ask your question, Fairy Queen, and then I'll let Elder Drazi ask his question.
How
Good?
should women take more responsibility over their personal protection? How do you think they should do that in relationships?
in relationship, so in a relationship, by selecting for somebody that's not going to be more prone to aggression. Like, you're not going to select somebody whose career or lifestyle depends on them being like exceptionally strong or aggressive. And then you can make up for that lack of protection in your partner by having a firearm, by taking what do they call that? Like, you can learn self-defense. You can have like emergency plans if something goes wrong. There are steps you can take to make yourself more safe in pretty much every aspect of your life if it's so important, without having to introduce a potential threat into your life as well. This is why I think this is such a silly
So I
Huge
just want to go
criteria.
through each of the things that you just said, Eldrazi. So the first one goes with finding a partner who is less likely to be aggressive, who is less likely to hurt you. I would completely agree with you. That is something that you can do. But that is
That's
like what
something
me
women
and
suck
Star
at.
are saying, right? That's like why we are saying that like women should be picky and why women should be choosy. It's to try to find a partner who is less likely to hurt you in that way.
No, that's what
So
Eldrazi's been saying this whole time too. I've been
That's
saying
what
this is one of the
Star's been
entire.
saying. Star's
I'm
been
saying this is.
too.
I have said this is an area where you should feel entitled to be safe. To
Okay,
feel safe in
then-
your
and
relationship is
then
something I
we-
consistently said since the beginning.
Then we're in agreement. Okay, we're in agreement. Women should feel entitled to trying to be picky and choosy in regards to finding a partner that's safe for them. I would
That
agree with
does
you. I
bring
think the
up-
women.
But it is in
I think everyone
contrast to the
the uns-
reality of what women do select
But the-
for as
Yeah, but
well.
that's but
Unspoken-
if you're going to say that, then what you are criticizing women for is for not being picky and choosy enough. For
in
not
this
being
in this
entitled enough.
aspect, yes. I'm
Okay,
saying that the priorities are
Okay.
misaligned.
The
I dropped my
unspoken.
fork.
So
I'm
we
very
want
angry.
the debate
The
because
un- the
women
unspoken-
aren't
The
picky enough.
unspoken.
Well, hold
You
on.
interrupted me, Stardust. You interrupted. As soon as a man gets emotional, the women shut him down every single fucking time. Okay. The thing that is going unspoken right now is
Every time I
when
try to
men
introduce
hear
nuance, they've
this shit
resimplified
about
it to state
women
the
needing
nuance.
to be protected. Sure, like a lot of men won't even admit it because they don't. We hate that idea. All men, if you've just like been out with friends and stuff, you've experienced something where
Queen Bee,
like
that's
a drunk woman, or
phenomenal.
maybe she's just I don't know, like not that
enough
smart.
moto tickets to
like,
play a draft.
Picks a fight with a stranger and then gets her boyfriend into a conflict or something like that. Men, we don't want to be I don't want to have to protect. I mean, I understand I'm stronger and she's weaker, and if something goes down and I'm with her, that's what's gonna fucking have to happen. But we don't like hearing that. So we get all this negative feeling when we hear that we're being forced into like combat positions just by so we're like, what do I have to do? Do I have to fucking like become a fighter so that now what do I have to do? And it's just like all these standards and stuff. It scares and freaks the fuck out of men, and that's what is happening here.
So a couple of things to respond to that, Smith. So I think like, and some other people have made this statement before, like the vast majority of times, like if something bad happens, if somebody breaks into your house, you pick up the phone and you call the police. You typically don't ask your husband to go down with a shotgun to try to handle it themselves. So I would agree with you in that sense.
Excuse me?
But however, while
Wait,
that's
hold on.
definitely how that's definitely true,
doesn't happen.
Smith. While how that's definitely true, Smith. This is what I would counter you with, okay? There are going to be times where protection doesn't mean you have to be a jujitsu fighter. It might mean I am 9 months pregnant, my water broke, and I am in extreme pain, and I need you to drive me to the hospital, and I need you to make
Elk.
sure that when I am giving birth and
Thank
I am in
you.
labor,
I
that no
just
one
bought a
sexually
30-pack
assaults
of
me
energy
because there
drinks.
is no one
I
there,
appreciate
and
you
you
a
need
lot,
to bring
buddy.
me there immediately. Or when I pick up the phone to
Very
make a phone
cool.
call to our school for our child, and the principal or the teacher isn't listening to me because they're sexist and because I'm the mom and it sounds like them nagging in the phone, I need you to pick up the phone and to yell at them in your deep masculine voice and to to try to advocate what is in the best interests of our child. That's what we mean when we
Likewise, I think I've had some friends that like it when they're like I've been at like dinner with friends and they'll be like they'll go to the girlfriend like, you need to do a Karen right now. We're not getting the service we need. I need you to pull a Karen. They're not going to do anything if I say I need you to start shrieking like a crazy Karen woman, and then they're going to like give us the food.
It's not about being a crazy Karen
Okay.
woman, but unfortunately, the reality is that because we live in a society where women are more vulnerable, women are weaker, and where women unfortunately are disrespected, having someone who has the ability to command respect and to get other people to shut up and to attend to your needs is important. Not
Okay.
because they need to
I
just
think
punch
women
somebody out in
are
the
better
bar.
at getting women actually I
we
think
need
in a lot
to-
of situations have the ability to get people to attend to their needs a lot more than men.
We
I
need
think
to
we need to
hold on.
address
Stop.
what Elder Drazi said, right?
We do in a minute, but let me get to these super chats. I know I'm prioritizing. I want Dragon's Dogma, gang, and you need to give me money so I can get Dragon's Dogma. Okay, $5 from Zephyr Hash. If men should adjust to women having more freedom and taking more responsibility, then why aren't women adjusting to lower crime rates? 2024, A Gay Odyssey for $2 says, free January 6 Patriots, sub 4 men talking over Star. Thank you for the $2. And then $5 from Rude Mudcrab. If your man's job to protect you, he stands between you and the gun, but you take on the most risk? ? I want to kind of. I understand why we've gone down the track we do, but I want to kind of rewind a little bit and maybe ask it another way, right? growing up, women are told, don't settle. You deserve the best, right? You deserve a foot rub every day. You deserve the best of the best. If you don't find a man who's going to treat you like a princess, treat you like the queen you are, you don't need him, okay? You just toss him to the side. He's not worth it, right? You need someone who is going to put you on a pedestal, who's going to make you the queen of their world. You know what men are told? Yeah, you just need to settle, right? That's what men are told overall, right? So do we think that we are doing our young women a disservice when we tell them these things? Do we think we're doing them, that we are setting them up to failure? Because I'm going to tell you, right? Like, most women can't pull a 6'4" doctor who makes $200K a year for a 50-year relationship. That's just not going to happen. But most women, right, or a lot of women, I won't say most, but a lot of women, especially young women, think that's what they should be going after. And so we have this gap between expectation and reality, and I would posit that it is failing women. And $10 from Cryborn to say for DD22, thank you, buddy. Okay, go ahead. Start us first, and then we can go.
So look, I agree that I see some of the standards that younger women have, and I think that they're utterly preposterous and really fucking stupid, right? But even if we talk about, like, okay, we put these values into women to not settle, right? We still don't see that bear out in reality. We still see tons of women who are in horrible relationships. We see tons of women who are actually worse off.
To be clear,
being
Stardust
married
is doing
than-
praxis by settling for Beckett, but continue, please.
we're still we're still
Poor
still
Beckett, she
so
laughed.
sorry.
Sorry,
that's
go
not
on.
one that's
Well, no,
not true.
He's a low risk male. So
Okay, wait a minute. Well, one that's not true, but let me finish what I'm saying. So
The lore.
where was I before you interrupted me, Wick?
I don't know. I thought it
I
was a
did it
funny
too.
question, though. Sorry,
Okay,
my
so
bad. I apologize.
High
Go
risk
on.
male, guys.
We talk about how women should, lower their standards and stuff, and, like, again, I do agree that young women in particular, especially when you're, like, young, early 20s, and you're super hot, like, they have stupid standards, right? But most of the time we don't see these standards that you're talking about bear out in reality. So we still see women getting into marriages where those marriages, they're actually worse off for those marriages. They have less free time. They see their friends and family less. They're way more busy, and their male counterpart gets a cleaner as well as somebody who's bringing in an income, right? And somebody who is taking care of their kids, right? And somebody who's doing the brunt of the domestic work. So yeah, we can talk about, like, oh, you shouldn't settle, right? And we shouldn't have that standard for women. But it seems like even when we do put that, when we do instill that value in women, they still settle. They still settle for never having an orgasm in their entire life. They still settle for a man who, starts beating them as soon as they get pregnant. It just I understand what you're saying, Wick, and it feels bad as a man, and maybe we need to change how we what we tell men about settling, but I don't think we should change what we tell women about settling.
I think that settling is why.
Can I?
but women are
that-
settling less.
sorry.
They're settling less.
Yeah, well,
Those
hold on. One at a
expectations are why they
time.
end up
One at a
settling.
time. One at a time. $5 from Parallax Dragon's Dogma because Dollar General Radagast should have fun too. Watermelon Twilder loves you. Thank you for the $5. Fairy Queen, then Drazi, then Smith. Go ahead.
I wanted to ask you a question, Wick. So I'm going to give you, yes, you. I'm going to ask, and actually, I'm going to ask you specifically this question because you asked us a question. I think it was fair. You have two options. Option A, you can have a group of friends who don't really respect you. They talk shit about you behind your back, and they're not really
Extremers?
nice.
Gotcha.
They're
Okay.
mean, right? But you could have this group of friends, right? But they're bad friends. They're not really great friends. They're not the worst friends, but they're not really great friends. Or you can be by yourself. Which of those two options would you prefer? Would you choose?
How long have I been by myself? Because at a certain point, right? At a certain point,
In a vacuum, right now.
right now, I would rather have. Well, let's talk about reality. This isn't a hypothetical, right? I live in a rural area. I could be alone all the time, Or I could be a streamer, and let me tell you, you talk about people who don't really like you and talk about behind your back. That's streaming, baby. So I've already made my choice. This is where we're at. This is why we're here. We're here to make money, and thank you for the 200 bits, Mooncake. Really appreciate you. And she asked me to ask you if you all protect black women.
We do. We stand them
Okay.
every day. But
Right.
the
We
next,
do.
but the reason why I'm asking, see, that's an interesting response. I would say that it would be better to be by yourself than it would be to be with a group of friends who mistreat you and who are abusive to you and who treat you poorly and who don't really respect you.
It really
And that's
depends
the
on
sense.
like the
But that's the
honest
sense.
thing. The honest thing here is it depends on how much, right? I would put up with a little bit of mistreatment and things like that,
But
depending
why
on the
does
thing, rather than being alone. And I think a lot of men would, because that is our reality. It's not a hypothetical. For a
but
lot of
why?
men,
But why?
their reality is
But
loneliness.
why? Why would you put up with a little bit of mistreatment? Like why?
Because being
Why?
lonely is far worse.
Being lonely
Because
fucking
of the
sucks.
stakes. Well, because of the stakes, right? Because the stakes are that if you put up with somebody a little bit annoying, nothing really bad is going to happen to you. I mean, sure, you might have to deal with Bob like farting as he's like eating his nachos
Okay,
for the
I
eighth
think
time,
there's a
but
disconnect here. Can I try to bridge the disconnect? I think the disconnect here is for men, they don't have friendships the same way that females do, right? When it's a woman choosing between a really bad marriage, or choosing to have a vibrator and get all her emotional fulfillment from her friends, one is obviously better than the other. If you're in a marriage where you are doing the brunt of the work, again, you're not getting emotionally fulfilled, you're not getting sexually fulfilled, you don't even get to see your friends very often, right? Why would you choose that over being able to see your friends, being able to have your emotional fulfillment from your friends, and having a vibrator? Why would you?
and the principle at play here too, like when we're thinking about like why you choose to put up with like some of your annoying friends, it's because the worst thing that's going to happen is they're going to snipe at you over dinner and then you'll go home and you'll be fine. The worst thing that happens, like if you settle for someone and it turns out to be a bad marriage, is first of all, there is the huge risk of domestic violence. There is the risk that you could potentially choose a partner who could hurt you, a partner who might financially abuse you. That's a huge aspect in many marriages. But there's the other problem, which is that I don't like the idea, like from like a bird's eye view, right? That it's better for everyone at large for women to choose to date and to marry and to have children with men who they otherwise would not choose, or to settle, because that's the consequence. That's the consequence of telling women to have
Hold on.
to do this, is that it creates unhappy family structures. It creates because what happens is that now you have two parents, a mom who doesn't want to be in that marriage, who is resentful of her husband, who's settled with this person, which therefore creates a dysfunctional like family life for the children who now live within that marriage as a consequence of settling, number one. And number two, right? We do this all the time, like especially like with me and my girlfriends, like people rag on you for choosing to like date somebody that like is a bad boyfriend. And they do that because like if you are seen like dating someone who is someone who you otherwise wouldn't choose to date, it means that everyone else now thinks, oh well, now it's easier for you to date everyone else around you in the circle. It's the
Well, yes,
problem with the
because
house
men
and
are
the
seen as
metaphor
the
of the neighborhood.
status symbol, and men will also rag on guys about their girlfriends, but I don't feel, and this is intuition, I understand, they don't do it as much. I want to get Elder Drazi and Smith in here, but let me read these two super chats first. $5 from Cryborn. Can't put never having had an orgasm in your life on your partners. True, right? And then $5 from Turtle Emergency. To the women on the panel, what are the top 3 traits a man should work on to be recognized as a good potential partner?
Okay,
Can I respond to that super chat? Can I respond? I need to respond to that super chat.
You
If
need
it's
no.
quick.
You
That's
you're no.
absolute
If you're gonna
bullshit.
interrupt,
Bullshit.
no.
Coming from, yes, I am going to talk over you. It's not even interrupting. I'm bulldozing over you.
Typical
Okay?
woman.
It's not
Typical
interrupting.
woman.
If you are
Typical
going to talk
woman
about
entitlement.
women orgasming, we're talking about women who traditionally, we come from a very purity culture, right? In America, whether if you come from any fucking religious background, you feel fucking guilty for making yourself come. And the idea of even having an orgasm is a completely foreign concept to a huge majority of women in the world. So yeah, there are majority of women in the world, I'm willing to say, do not come. They die. They spend their whole lives without ever having had an orgasm.
Okay, then fucking come. Then let's stop treating women like shit.
Maybe we don't fucking shame women for having sexuality then.
Yeah, that
Smith and I aren't advocating for that. I promise you.
No, I'm responding to
so
the
many of
super
these,
chat,
so
not
many,
responding
so
to Smash.
so many of these issues to me make me feel so numb when I feel like I'm being forced to be to pick a side where because it's so confounding and multi-directional. Like the way I see it, there are two different camps you could put these expectations that women having. There are expectations that are going to be for her safety and well-being and for her future, and then there are superfluous expectations that are just because she has the selective power, she's not going to settle for anything else, and her selective power is only going to go down, and she doesn't even realize that. She's like, by the time she's 30, she's not going to be able to do that anymore, and then she's not going to be able to get the things that are actually going to provide her safety. So that's an issue. But also, women value men. So women are valuing men for a lot of the wrong reasons, and obviously, men value women for a lot of the wrong reasons. The fact that we are so obsessed with getting we are so obsessed with like fucking 20-year-old women. Who the fuck wants to date a 20-year-old woman? But we don't care about like them being like
A lot of people.
I mean
do.
like we don't value them for the right reasons. So both of us are not valuing each other from the right reasons. Except the reason that men are so upset is because women have the picky power in dating. And they keep just shaming men and telling men how awful they are, where it's a complex situation where it goes in both directions. And the relationship between men and women is this thing that's wrong. It's not just men. It's not just men.
If I can speak now, I had a couple things written down here, because a lot of people said a lot of stuff. So I think that the high expectations that young women have lead to having worse standards. Like Stardust, you said, well, it doesn't change anything. So I'm saying, yeah, so maybe it's part of the problem. If we think that these high expectations are going to lead to better outcomes, but for some reason they're not, maybe it's part of the system that's failing women. So when you have really high expectations, women in their early 20s, they get a lot of offers from very successful men that they would like to have a relationship with. They get flown out, they fuck them, they dump them, and now they go, oh, well, I went out and met this really successful guy, and he tossed me away. Then I guess like maybe these aren't the kind of people, like maybe this whole thing is all wrong. And if that happens to you enough, then you're just not going to have those you're not going to view those expectations the same way. They're not going to develop into standards that reflect those expectations either. So that seems to be a thing that I've heard a lot about. I think you have a really weird, large amount of focus on orgasms when that is also on your end as well. If
best
women
thing
aren't
in the world.
if you know that you're missing, so let me put it this way: at least if you know that you're missing out on orgasms, then I mean, you can, like you said, you can do things for yourself too, or you can have a bigger role
We're
in
not
your
talking about
actual
purity
sex
culture,
life.
though, right?
I
Like,
think
we're
if you
talking-
Right,
use
so
a
you have to
vibrator
decide
every
if you
day-
want to put. I understand. You either have to. You have to pick what you want, but this is what. Like, it's not going to change overnight. So if you want to
use
have
a
more
vibrator
orgasms,
every
you have to
day, I'm
choose
not
to have
gonna
more
make you come.
orgasms.
If you use a vibrator every day, I'm probably not going to be able to make you come. It's just like if a guy jerks off every day, you're not going to make me come. If you want me to make me come, I have to stop jerking off. I'm so sick of this being like ignored. Like if you want your boyfriend to make you come, then stop fucking jerking off. And then it's the same both
I think
directions.
the issue here is when wait a minute, when we talk,
I don't think that's the
here's something,
case.
another interesting statistic is that, not statistic, but interesting finding.
I didn't
is
come
that
prepared with
when-
orgasm stats, gang. I'm sorry.
When it's not a stat, but it was a finding, I believe. When men think about what is bad sex to them, they think about sex where they didn't come. When women think about what is bad sex to them, they think about sex that is painful. Okay, that is a huge breadth of difference between, and that is why it's important. The fact that when we think about what bad sex is, men don't even think about sex that's painful. They think primarily about sex where they didn't come. For women, that is a
I don't
fact
believe
of
that
life.
finding.
That is
So
I don't believe that finding whatsoever.
I believe that. So I'll respond
nonsense.
to the super chat and to a couple of things that Elder Drazi said.
Oh wait, can I make my last point really quick? I sat here patiently despite my chat giving me shit for not going in. I just have one more thing I wanted to say that I think is really important. I think
Go
that
in.
all these expectations that are being put on men, and not once have we pointed out that, like, what expectations can men have? If I'm expected to make $100,000, then can I also say that I don't want to date you because you're too fat? If I don't make enough money, can't you be too
Yeah,
fat?
you
Because I
can.
tell you what, it's a lot easier to lose 60 pounds than it is to gain $100,000 every year. There's just
I think
I'm
that
not
men
worth
should be more
my skills
selective.
aren't
I
worth
agree with you, Elder
$100,000.
Drazi.
All
I
right.
agree with you, Eldrazi. I think men should be more selective.
Well, I wanted to hear Fairy Queen's response real quick.
I respect your answer, Stardust. Usually that's not the response that you're gonna get.
Yeah, I mean,
So-
look, you try just real quick. You try telling a woman like I dumped her because she was too fat. You are going to get a lot of flack. Whereas
Well,
if a
just keep it to
woman, I
yourself.
dumped
Just
her
keep it
because
to
you didn't make
yourself.
enough money, they will like society will be like, no, I get it. They have to be able to support.
Get
their
it,
family."
girl.
Brittany
No matter-
Simon,
no
Brittany
matter
Simon,
what-
thank you for the raid. Okay, fair enough.
Women are
Okay,
not
no
keeping
matter
it to themselves how
no
awful
matter-
men are and everything they hate about men.
No matter what the reason for dumping somebody is, you probably it's probably good social etiquette to not tell them. Oh, I dumped you because you're ugly or you're fat or I stopped being attracted to you or you're not making me.
I was
come,
saying
or
men
you-
at large. Can men at large say, I don't want to date women that are fat without it being contentious? Women
Yeah,
can say
yeah,
he's
they
a loser
can.
if he doesn't
I think
make
they
enough.
should be able to do that.
And then attached to that, is there too high of an expectation? Can women have too high of expectations? If so, where would you and Fairy Queen actually draw the line? You're like, all right, this chick's obviously she literally wants to
I think-
marry only like the King of England or the President of the United States. Where
I
is
think
this
the height
absurdity
thing is a really great
line?
example. The height thing is a really great example because I knew a girl growing up and she would talk to me about, oh, I want a guy who's over 6 feet. And I'm like, you're literally 5'1". You don't fucking need a guy who's over 6 feet. Guess
That's a
what?
fetish.
She ended up dating and marrying a guy who's shorter than her. So I mean, so yeah, I think that standard is so fucking stupid, So yeah.
I think Smith and I are both like 5'11", so that's just we've never been tall enough for it to benefit us, never too short for it to fuck with us. So it's an alien. I just found out about this like recently, like in the last 2 years.
Yeah.
Okay,
I think it's fine to be into guys
real
that
quick,
are tall.
Smith, and
It's fine to
after
be-
Smith, you're done. I'm gonna
it's fine-
pass the ball to
it's
Fairy
fine
Queen.
It's fine to
Finish.
have whatever preferences you want. I just think that women when you settle down, you lose a lot of power, especially if you're young, because a lot of your power in society comes from your sexual selectiveness and your withholding your sexual attention, or even just your attention at large. And when you settle down, you lose a lot of power. And I think that is one of the main factors, because I think that a lot of women actually do find people that would be good for them, that meet a lot of their standards, and they still horrifies them because settling down would be a great loss of power. And so I think that it's not just like, oh, fuck you, women. It's we need to like empower women so that they don't need that fucking bullshit. I'm a young pussy fucking power. Fuck pussy power. We need to empower women in real power.
Okay, Fairy Queen, go ahead.
So I wanted to respond to the super chat that I don't know who it was that paid it a few minutes ago, but I think it was the top 3 characteristics that like men should develop in themselves. So the first one is the simplest. It's not necessarily the easiest. It's physical attractiveness, and that means go to the gym. That's an easy thing that everyone can do. Everyone. I don't care who you are. I don't care how fit you are. Go to the gym. Run more. Lift
Now we can
weights.
generalize
Have a
between
good
men and
eating
women.
routine. Have good hygiene. Like take care of yourself. That's an simple. It's not an easy thing to do. It's not easy, to make yourself get out of bed every day at 5:00 in the morning to go to spin class. But it's a simple thing that you can do. So that's the first simple fix that you can do to try to make yourself a more attractive and better partner. The second one is quit having an identity crisis and get identity capital. And what that means is stop worrying about who you are or trying to figure out who you are or what it means to be you in the world, and try to do things like in your life that will add to you, try to create who you are. That means doing things like go take that crazy internship across the country and try it out. It means try the job, go and chase your dreams, go get a master's degree, do things that provide a concrete credential or that actually add and build into who you are going to be and who you want to become. Focus on getting identity capital. Identity capital, it means things like trying an internship, trying a new job, trying a new experience that will help to develop you in some way, or getting a master's or pursuing a higher education in some way. So that's what it means to have identity capital. Finally, have a goal or a purpose outside of getting married. So I think this has been true for me. I'm sure it's true for a lot of people who've been in relationships where you are really focused, you're really, really interested in your career. You are having a great time. Maybe it's streaming, maybe you're writing a book, maybe you have lots of friends and you're really interested, you're really excited about it, and you have a partner and your partner does not seem to have a life purpose or direction for themselves. Your relationship, their whole purpose is to basically leech off of your star. It's to hitch their wagon onto your dream and to feed off of your energy. That is a killer in any dynamic. In order for it to really work, you have to have and bank on a dream and a vision for your life that exists outside of getting married and having kids. So have a goal, have a purpose, get identity capital, and physical attractiveness.
But those are really good. Like those are really good like advice. But like men, we can't hold women to those standards at all.
Yes, you can.
But they don't do it. They don't need to.
Yes, we do. Objectively, that's not. Okay. Identity capital. That's definitely not true. Women are more likely to go to college. Women are going to college at rates like in far greater numbers than they've ever been before.
Wait
They're
a
more
second.
likely to get master's degrees. They're more likely to pursue like jobs of higher education. Women are far more likely to pursue identity capital.
If you're a man in my audience, and you won't date a woman who hasn't been to college, press 1 now, please, or raise your hand.
Probably.
If you're a woman in my audience and you won't date a man who hasn't been to college, please press 2.
Wick, it should be if you're a man and you wouldn't date a woman who hasn't gone to college, because it's either that or they're just lying. Everybody pressed 1 is lying.
There's a thing I want to push back on as well. One point, a small point, but this idea that women aren't lambasted for wanting a man who makes a lot of money, that's not true. Society at large calls them gold diggers. So
yep.
Women, okay, hold on. So the first one, like go to the gym. Women are way more fat than men, like way more, in like every single country in the whole world. And it's not even. It's actually horrifying.
Statistically, it's not that much actually.
It's actually a lot.
U.S. statistics. If you look at U.S. statistics, most men and most women are overweight. Yeah.
Yeah, but women are way
a little bit
overweight.
more, a little bit more, but yeah.
A lot
more women and significantly more overweight. Is that what you're saying?
So identity capital. With identity capital, I only care about the going to college because it just means that you're gonna be like more like you've spent more time growing up. That's the only. But I don't. The gaining of like status and stuff like that. I personally don't care about like somebody's status. That seems like so superficial.
It's not about status.
What do you mean then?
Identity capital, it's not about gaining status. It's about doing things in your life that will build up who you are. So we can use the metaphor of going to the gym. So I know people today who have gained weight, who are overweight, but because they spent all of their years in high school and in college lifting weights, playing professional football, and really spending it, they still have and retain that muscle mass and that strength even now, like well into their 40s and their 50s. That's what, and that correlates again with identity capital. It might be the case. Do you see what I'm saying?
Yeah, like, I agree, but it just sounds creepy because of the word capital. But
would you disagree? Would you disagree with this? And this is to Stardust and Fairy Queen. And I'm just really curious because well, let me ask the question. Men need all that you said. I think that men need it, right, to kind of differentiate themselves. All a woman has to be is pretty. That's literally it. That's literally
not necessarily true.
Almost
for sex or for marriage?
For a relationship.
No, disagree.
For a relationship,
no,
that's not true.
To live in their early 20s, yes, but not.
And
that's what I'm saying. Pretty. Right?
There's something that we need to also make a difference here, right? When we're talking about desirability, women in general are not desiring men unless they see a long-term future with them, whereas men are willing to hook up with literally most women. If we're being real, right? And so women don't want a short-term relationship. There are tons of guys who are willing to have that with women, but that's not what they're looking for. We're looking for different things.
I think what Wick's saying is a man in 34 can't fail and set up shop in somebody else's life and get a free ride. Like a beautiful woman can absolutely do that. If you say that can't happen, I don't believe anything you say from here on out.
I need to respond to Stardust because
a young girl can do that. Yes.
I need to respond to Stardust. So actually, it's
actually
right now I don't know about in the United States, young men actually want long-term relationships, and young women don't want long-term relationships. Older men want short-term relationships, and older women want long-term relationships. Yeah, there's a flip because the young women can hook up with a bunch. They don't want to settle. Like they I don't think this is a self-protective thing. I just think women just don't want to settle. And so young men actually do want
I would have to look at that because I that is not what I recall. Usually men when it comes to the dating market as a whole, men in general are happy to sleep with a large variety of women, whereas women are not willing to sleep with a man unless she sees a long-term future with him.
I just saw on Jessica Pin, the clitoris scientist woman. She did a
Mhm.
poll on Twitter, and she was saying like women how often do you have sex with a man who you don't see as a potential partner, and it was like almost all. And she had like 3 options. She had man that just wants to look at the poll results, so that's
Mhm.
what I clicked, and so. The vast, like, it was like 80% women like having sex with people that they don't see as a potential mate.
Let's get some data in this. I just looked it up. So this is from a study from 2017. Okay.
Uh-huh.
This is what they found, and this is a study involved 297 women, the mean age of 28, including single, married, divorced, as well as mothers and non-mothers. The study found that younger women place greater importance on finding long-term mates who show signs of wealth, potential, and can provide emotional support, sign of commitment, right? These women, say the researchers, have the luxury of time. They don't necessarily want to partner with money now, but one with potential of doing well in the future. Older women, however, favored practicality and immediacy, placing greater value on gifts of financial assistance and domestic help from their partners. So there's
Right,
some data for you
but what
all.
I'm saying is that women have sex with men who
Makes
they don't
sense.
actually want to go long term.
Sure,
And
women
when men have
do
sex,
that.
when I have sex with women, I
Yes.
actually like all of them. I see a potential. I don't actually. I've never had sex with a. I don't think I've ever had sex with a woman.
Never had sex with
Maybe,
a woman,
maybe,
gang.
maybe. I think, yeah, a couple times I had a
Smith, I
couple
think you're
hookups,
the exception.
but I know I'm always looking for a partner.
You're
It-
the exception.
No,
That's
because I
Okay.
have to. No, because I have to. Because as a man, I don't have as much selection. So when I'm dating, I'm like, this could be the one. This could be every single time because I don't have as many options. I don't have as many choices.
Let me
this
get
is
some super chats in here. $5 from Temperance Quill. Women should ditch the men and go back to living in communal families where we outnumber the men 3-1. Thank you for $5. $2 from Testicle Johnsons. Hashtag deport all penoids. Thank you for the $2. Honkler 303, a member for 2 months at tier 2. One of my biggest regrets in life is the one-time casual sexual relationship I involved myself in. Not all men want short-term flings. Thank you for being a member. And Fancy Teeth for $20. Men have multiple opportunities to provide value, smart, charismatic, good, father, kind. Women are judged by their looks first. Broader society values that first. If you feel that one value add, you're done. Carry on, please.
there's a huge issue where we assume a lot about the general and then apply it to all the individuals. This is what I'm saying. I care about the individual. I care about the individual women that are getting this information about the expectations where it's going to end up harming them. Like, I've heard a lot of generalizations about men. People in Wix chat have talked about it. I've talked to Smith one-on-one and in a group about male sexuality, and there was not a single person in any in that larger group that we had that fit any of these molds whatsoever. So that's not how real people are. You can make generalizations, but you're going to lose every single individual in these generalizations. I think that
So-
when people are selecting for a romantic partner, having some romance is probably pretty important. Having trust is extremely important. Knowing that they're not going to beat the shit out of you is extremely important. You should find them attractive, but you don't need to like come in your pants as soon as they walk in the room. I think that you need to you should know that they're not going to be draining you of all of your money, but that doesn't mean they need to be rich. There are realistic things that everybody can reasonably expect of somebody that they're going to share an enormous amount of time with, and it doesn't have to be all these insane extremes that we keep keep
So-
talking about and try to imply them to everybody. Everybody can kind of find a medium, and I think that's why is that not what we're advocating for? Why are we not advocating for figuring out what you need and finding that in another person instead of pulling up statistics, which is going to impact literally nobody's decision in who they're going to date?
So a couple
Well,
of
it does impact, but yeah. Go
yeah,
ahead,
it
sorry.
does impact.
Go
Yeah,
ahead,
no,
Fairy Queen.
Yeah, so there are a couple of things. So you asked like why we're giving general advice, and that's because this is a panel and we are speaking to the general public. We are not in the friendly neighborhood bar.
You're giving
where it's
advice
just you,
based
me.
on generalizations.
Yeah, but
That's
to the general public, like to the
But that's not
general
a
public, we
person.
give general advice about like what it is we want for the general public. You're right,
But
it's not a
about
person.
about
I'm not
personal
talking to a
choices.
person. I'm talking to the hundreds of people who will literally be watching the stream. So of course the advice is
I
going
think
to be
that makes
general.
sense. That makes
So
sense if you're talking to like people for the sake of policy, like,
We're
but
doing
not
pretty
for the
good.
sake
It
I'm
might be
sorry, was
thousands,
Fairy
though.
Queen
but not
done
for the sake of
speaking?
making
Was
personal
Fairy Queen
choices.
done speaking? I'm sorry, was Fairy Queen done speaking? Go ahead, Fairy Queen.
I was just asking a clarifying question. Like, so I like, are you saying that you're advocating for policy or personal choices?
I'm saying that like when it's not even just personal choices. It's if you have a platform and you are speaking to the broader public, then the advice that you are going to give, unless you are going to provide a bunch of qualifying brackets around the specific population that you're addressing, of course the advice that you're going to give is going to be general for the average person that walks across your channel. That would make sense. So I don't accept that as like a broad critique. Number one. Number two, there is something I wanted to address, Elder Drazi, like regarding like personal choice. So like you mentioned, like these women will become sad, and you're worried for these individual women who will become sad because they have these enormous expectations in their early 20s. They put it off, and
I
then
didn't
they
say sad,
hit the
but
wall.
okay.
Okay, you said lonely, and I would
Meaning
and as we
being
as
alone. Which
being
if
alone,
they're
right?
if they have expectations, meaning they want to date somebody, so they're not being able to meet their goal. That this is what I'm talking about. It's not about being sad.
But why do we care about like if they meet their goal, if like they're roughly at the same
I
level
can't
of
tell you
happiness
why
anyway?
I care. I can't tell you why I care about people wanting to thrive. I don't think that happiness is the
But that's
actual
what I'm.
metric that actually matters at the end of the day for
Do
people.
you
I think
think
it's
that single
flourishing.
women who are alone don't thrive?
Do
Is
I
that
think
what you're
that
saying?
single women who have the goal of finding a partner and continuously fail to find a partner are not going to fail to flourish in a way that they could be if they had different priorities when selecting a partner? Yeah, I think that they're going to have a
I
reduction of flourishing.
disagree. I
Well,
disagree.
I
So, and
think
I'm
that
going to.
if they're
And
actively not fulfilling a goal they could otherwise be fulfilling, I think that this fits the definition of flourishing less.
Well, let me ask
So
you.
no-
I think this is
Hold
like
on.
an
I
objective
do want to get to
pass-fail.
my super chats real quick, and then I'm gonna ask you, Fairy Queen, so you'll get a chance to respond to him and me. So, $5 from Superpower Sensei. When, if ever, should a man's emotions matter more than a woman's? Right now on my show and this channel, if you're liking this, right, prioritize my emotions by liking the stream, subscribing to the channel. Thanks for being here. $5 from Fancy Teeth. Helping the individual doesn't help society and change things for the better. Draz and Smith, come to Canada. Well, thank you for the $5.
That's right. I can
Fairy-
shoot my load as far as you need.
Fair enough. Fairy Queen, right? What advice would you give to a young woman or even an older woman, right? Like someone who is a woman who is failing, right? She wants relationships. She wants to find someone. She's had a slew of bad relationships for various reasons. Like they run the gamut. And she asks you, right? Like, why can't I find anyone, right? Why can't I find anyone? And then you look at her phone, right? You go through, you interrogate her, right? And you kind of look at this. And it turns out she has dozens of people who want to date her, who want to have a relationship with her, but she goes through, this one's too short, this one's kind of poor, I didn't like the way this one said croissant, right? He pronounced it a really weird accent, right? I know I'm being a little facetious with this
We've all seen it.
hypothetical, but
We've all seen it.
only a little. Go
We've
on.
all seen it.
What advice other than stop being picky would you give to that person?
other than that, I would ask, but the first question, I would have to ask a series of questions if I was met that person. The first one would be, tell me about your last relationship. Why did you break up? Like, I would ask them, like, what are the reasons, like, why you've had so many failed relationships? Like, why were you attracted to them? Like, why did you break up? I want to know that. That's my
author
first
of
question.
the author of the article, which I used it to start this talk, right? For her, she broke up and dumped a nice, and this is her words, a nice, nonviolent boyfriend for quote unquote not feeling the spark.
Well, but here's the issue, like Wick, and this is the issue that like Elder Drazi, I think specifically it might just be Elder
She,
Drazi
to be
and
clear,
like yourself.
regrets that and is fighting against it now. That's why she wrote the article. But go ahead.
Can I ask all of you, like, just a question? Do you think that you can control what you feel attracted to? Do you think that like
To an
that's something
extent,
that you
yes.
can change?
No, not at all.
Yes.
I
No, wait,
can't.
you guys don't think that?
No,
You can't.
Wait, it's changed. I thought for a long time, and I've had issues come up with it. I thought for a very long time I had zero attraction to black women. Just turned out there was like 3 within a 100-mile radius of me. I moved to the city and that changed. So it changed, but that wasn't my choice.
Right. So
actually, wait.
I feel like I have no agency.
Right.
No, I
so-
think attraction to an extent, and I understand it's not entirely in your control, but to an extent, you can choose what you involve yourself with and what you're willing to be drawn to,
Yes,
right?
yes.
You can change you can change what you were attracted to. You can change, like, have you ever heard of the it's an acquired taste? Have you heard that saying?
I don't think that works.
I
It's an
do think
acquired
I
taste.
do think you
I've
can
heard that,
cultivate
That
but-
a weird.
happens.
yeah,
I
I
That's
don't
the
think
thing.
that works with
If you
sexuality
don't have,
either.
I think if you don't have a foot fetish, I think you can try to cultivate one, and you have like, if you try hard enough, like in the right like way, you could make yourself
The-
have a foot fetish.
No.
Yeah.
So
The only
so-
thing,
so- so-
the only thing you'd be doing is using another fetish and twisting it around to in order to
Yes,
achieve
kind of,
that.
probably,
Yeah, but it's
yeah.
not a real
So-
foot fetish then.
So,
Yes,
so,
but-
so that's so the reason why I asked this question, right, is because let's go to the woman who you say is being very unreasonable and she keeps having all these failed relationships. Well, if I sit down with that woman and I go to her phone and I find one of these men that she is not attracted to, and I tell her, you're really entitled. You're really being too picky. You should just suck it up and you should just go with him. Well, what's the consequence of that? The consequence of that is that you're telling her to go and to be with somebody who she is not attracted to. You're telling her to go and to have a relationship with someone that she doesn't feel attracted to and who she does not want to be with.
This
That's
isn't.
bad.
And
This
that's a
is
disservice
exactly
to
what you
man,
did to
isn't it?
everything that I've
Yes,
said
it
too.
is.
Wick said
Absolutely.
there's a large amount of people here, and you're ignoring the totality. So every time there's nuance brought into any, like if we zoom in on a specific thing, go look at the nuance of this thing. You zoom back out and go, it's actually very simple. You can't tell a woman to do, but nobody's advocating for that. He's saying there is a large amount of men here, so presumably some of these men aren't going to be fat, old, ugly chuds. And
Yeah, but
and
yeah,
then,
but
like
the
I've said
point
too,
is,
I
like,
think
but-
that you should have some level of attraction, but maybe not
right,
blowing
but
your
even
wad
if,
as soon as
but
you
even
see
if,
'em.
but the point is, Elder Drazi, even if you personally think that these women are being ridiculous and that they should be attracted to these men, that they're entitled for not being attracted because they're good enough. Like, okay, they're not schlubs,
I
they're
don't
good
think
guys.
they're
Why
being
don't you want?
ridiculous. I think they're being indoctrinated by social media and just social
Right, but
pressures in
sitting
general.
down. Yeah, but the difficulty is, like, regardless of why they are not attracted to them, you sitting down in front of them and telling them that they are bad and
I
dumb
have
for not
said
wanting
you
that.
should have some level of attraction to your partner. You're reframing it as me saying they should date people
Well,
that
but
they're
what
not
I-
attracted to.
But
and
that
like,
is
this
necessarily
keeps
what
happening.
you're saying. Even if you, I understand you don't want. I know it's not what you mean to say. I understand that. Like, I know
No,
that
it's
you
what I'm
don't think that
actually
that's the
not
consequence.
saying.
Yeah, but
Wait,
I'm
I
saying
think-
that is what you're saying, even though you don't want it to mean that. And
Wait,
the
wait.
reason
I
why
have
it
I
means
have
that is-
dated women that I knew that there were other more attractive women. I was still attracted to this woman. If I had
Yeah, but
held
the
out
point
standards
is, yeah, but
for
the point is, these
dating a movie
men
star,
that who are not being
wasn't gonna
selected, these
happen.
women do not want to be with them
Wait, no,
in
hold
their
on.
totality. They have rejected them in their totality. They don't want to be with them.
I think
That's the point.
especially in light of the way you're saying that, I think a better way to frame what I think Elder Drazi's point at least should be is that women have more disqualifiers, not like
Yeah.
this person's unattractive.
many
but
deal
like,
breakers.
he's like, it's a complete deal breaker where like every person I've ever dated, like there's things like that I always have to like say, okay, I usually wouldn't date somebody like this, but this person I like in all these other ways, so I will.
Yeah, but the
I think
point
when
is,
it-
like,
Yeah, when I talk to somebody, I have to
Um,
list like 3 or 4 things and go, hey, just, this, and this, because I know there's deal breakers right away. But I think these are reasonable ones. I don't know all the
How
and
many
I wanna
Jews
bunch of
have
other ones.
deal breakers about women's body counts?
to
I
just
don't think that most men do, honestly.
like if you
I
do
don't know
like
about that.
you
If
then
she's a virgin, it means it's going to be really annoying getting her to be good at sex. and
Yeah,
all,
but you
and
don't
it's
want
gonna
her
be-
to have been with like 100 people.
I don't give a shit.
right?
I don't know. It's just probably good as long as it wasn't 100 people yesterday, because then
Yeah,
it means
the
she's likely to
average
cheat on
guy-
me.
I think that's
Probably.
hold on, Stardust. I think that is a thing, but I think that it's mostly women who are upholding that standard, right? I think it's mostly women who are gatekeeping this from other women, right? I think that if you ask most men, right, and this is just my intuition, I don't have a study for this, but if you ask most men, hey, is it a deal breaker for you if if this potential partner has had over a certain amount of body count? Now, that's different than preference, right? Like, I know a lot of guys would preference less, But a deal breaker is different, right?
Only
a deal
an
breaker
incel would
is
say,
no.
yeah.
We'll cut that out.
I think that the rise of like red pill content is actually pretty indicative, like of men's sentiment towards women with high body counts, right?
No, those
These red
people,
pills
they're-
aren't getting any anyway, right? They're
Yeah,
not
they're not.
able to pick anything, right? They
They're
don't have a
incels.
choice.
I don't know. I don't
They're
know about
incels.
that, but-
They can say that shit all they want, but if one of these women with too high of a body count sits on their lap and starts sexing them up, they're done. Okay, they're not gonna say shit. They're gonna shut
Yeah.
the fuck up, and then
They're
they're
not
gonna blame. They're
gonna
gonna blame
marry
the
her, but they'll
woman
fuck
after
her.
the fact.
They'll fuck her. Yeah, they'll
Well,
fuck her, but they
in
won't
this
marry her.
well, in this scenario, I was definitely implying that this woman is simply trying to fuck this guy to prove that he doesn't care about body count.
Well, so here's a I want to address something else that you said earlier, Elder Drazi, which was I heard, because I've heard this specific thing like on a Red Pill podcast. I think it was on Fresh and Fit. It was the idea that, like, you know, when you're in your 20s, you can get flown out, you know, and then you can fuck them, and then you can dump them. That's like what, and a lot of like women in
It
their
does
early
happen.
20s, like, it does, but it doesn't happen for the average woman. Like the average woman who's like a 20-something-year-old in the Midwest who's going to a community college is not
Right,
in the same
this
boat
doesn't
as
happen that
somebody
way.
who had.
But the same
Yeah.
effect happens
Yeah.
in a much less
No.
luxurious. You,
The
I,
average
Actually, yeah.
woman,
No.
like in her early 20s, like it's true, like she will probably have like a lot of older men who will approach her and who will try to initiate like a relationship or to have sex with her. But she's not. But she's not getting flown out to Dubai. She's
That's
not
what I'm saying.
going on
Getting
yachts.
big
He's
monetary
getting
gifts.
driven down to the
Yeah.
next county.
what I'm
She's-
saying
no,
is
she's
it
not
can
even
have the
getting-
same
She's not even
effect.
getting big monetary gifts. Like the biggest thing is maybe they go to a dinner. That's it. Like, you know, especially in the early stages.
Yeah, my
you know?
point is that when you
Also
have these
that-
high expectations that lead to that kind of behavior, it can lead to lower standards overall.
No,
if this is what you're
no, but
seeing
that's
and you
it.
think that this is the norm of what these guys that have the criteria that you're primarily looking for in your 20s, and you go, this fucking sucks, that can cause you to lower your standards across the board, which I think might be the case if we're saying that despite all these expectations, women are still settling more.
Yes, so like I think these red pillars, like they do, like because women get this weird attention, I think they're like, oh, actually, why can't I get a guy like that? Like I think that happens to some extent, but also and those experiences, like getting driven across the county, getting flown out to fucking Dubai, those are the times when you get raped and killed. You know, that's not a good. That's the man is exercising power over you when that shit happens. That's not good. It's
So
danger.
there are a couple of other things too that I wanted to respond to. One of them is like huge focus on orgasms. You can settle on that yourself. So I want to address that because I think what Star is referenced to earlier is really important. So for a lot of women, the reason why they die without ever experiencing an orgasm is because they don't know what an orgasm is. There are many women who genuinely believe, like in these relationships, that they have experienced it or that they think that they've had it, but they actually have no idea. They actually have never experienced the sensation and are shocked and surprised when it happens for the first time. So simply telling them that they need to take more responsibility over their own sexuality, that's great and all, but if you don't even know in the first place like what an orgasm even is, it's pretty difficult for you to do that. And secondly, in the communities that like Star is referring to, which I know what she's referencing here, these women don't go to the sex shop to buy a vibrator. These women do not watch porn. These women, this is not their wheelhouse. It's heavily stigmatized within the community, even for them to masturbate. Like, and you want them to go on to Adam and Eve and like order like a bunch of sex toys. to
Yes,
bring to
we
their
do
front
still
door.
want them to do that because we care about
Yeah,
their
but they're
sexual
not going
health.
to. Yeah, you're right. But they're not going to do that because it's heavily stigmatized within these communities.
They
They're
don't even
called
talk about
horrible
it.
names for doing
the
it.
societal standards on women are like in those
Society
types
ain't
of
got to know about
societies.
it.
Wait. We're talking about what society as a whole has standards and what society as a whole gives, tells men and women, right? When we're talking about the standards that men and women have, society tells women in a lot of these communities that it is shameful, that it is dirty, that it is that you are a whore for even pleasuring yourself.
Stardust,
And I know
it seems
so
like you
many
got to step your game up
I
and
know
start
so many
proudly
adult
boasting your
women,
dildo use.
So many adult women. I know so many adult women who feel guilty even trying to masturbate without a man present.
Mhm.
That's the culture that a lot of these women grow up in.
Well,
If
the
you
women
pay
that
me
haven't need to
$9.95
encourage
an
it.
hour, I can help.
Is that really your answer? Sucks to be you? Like, fuck them? Like, if you don't want to do it? I mean,
But we
that's
should do that to
No,
men too. Then, like,
my
sucks
answer
to be a
was that the
fucking
women
guy,
who aren't
you know.
afraid
Wait,
of
hold on.
buying vibrators should be more active in empowering women to do so. You should be more active
But-
in fighting the stigma.
But this is what we do tell men. This is what women tell men. Oh, you ain't getting any. You can't get off. No one's helping you. Just go use your hand. That's what they're told. Why is it so weird for us to tell that to women who aren't having orgasms?
we
Oh,
do
you ain't
because
getting
women
off.
are
Well,
shamed.
take care of
We're
it
not
yourself.
telling that to men.
Why
But
are
we
we
do-
putting the onus on
Men
men
are- men
to
are
take
not- wait a minute,
responsibility
wait a
for
minute,
their
wait a minute.
lack of pleasure?
You're
But when we
fucking
try to put
crazy
this
if
on
you think-
women,
You
it's
are
suddenly,
fucking crazy
oh my
if you
God.
think that the standard for men and women is remotely the same. The amount of shame
just
that is
change what
given to
it is.
men for jerking off, the amount of shame that is given to men for sleeping around is completely different than what it is for women. In
Let's
fact,
just change.
for
let's-
a lot of history, women just took it as fucking a fact that their husbands were gonna fucking cheat on them.
I
Okay?
don't-
So,
but
no,
I don't
no,
think what you think is
let's
true
just
about
change
men's
what it is.
sexuality is actually
Let's-
true.
Bullshit.
Let's just
Don't
change
come
what
at
it
me
is.
with that fucking bullshit. Don't come at me with that fucking bullshit that you think that men are shamed as much as women for
got it.
masturbating. You know that they
They're
are.
not
Okay.
shamed. That's not what I
Okay,
said. And
I
had
can
you
fix
listened,
this.
you would
Let's
be. You
change-
can
let's
fix this,
change
but
what
let
it
me
is.
yell
Yeah,
for a minute.
Men
You
can,
fix it.
men
Let me
can
yell
do
for a
that.
minute.
Men can go and jerk off, right?
But they're
Go off,
told
they're
King.
not
to.
stigmatized. They're not stigmatized from jerking off. For women, it is different. They are told that if you jerk off, you are unclean, you are dirty. How dare
we
you do
calling it
something
that?
like that?
Okay, let's just change it to something else then. Like, so women do, or I don't know, it's just women, but like society, we do give men a lot of like, well, you should just do this, which contradicts with everything that they're told socially around them. Like, just be more vulnerable, be more emotional. So it's not like we're just doing this to women. Like when if you're a man and you just be more vulnerable, be more emotional, that like
Well-
depending on where you're living, that can like be really bad for you. And so we do.
So
But
Wait,
hold on,
can
hold
I-
on,
can I
just
ask
hold
you a
on, hold on,
question?
hold on,
Okay.
because this is just not true. Look at how society, right, treats men and jokes about men. Ha ha, look at that guy. He probably has to use his hand. Ha ha, what a loser he is. Talking about being shamed for taking matters into your own hands.
Can I ask
Men
you
are
a
often,
question?
let me finish.
Boys
Let me
will be
finish.
boys.
Let me finish,
will be
right?
boys.
Let me finish. This is
Boys will be
they are a
boys.
joke. They are considered a joke. They are a laughing stock. We mock them. If a woman
I have a
can't get a man, right? No one mocks her. They might,
Yes, they do.
they might
What
shame
are
her,
you
but they
talking about?
don't
Yes, they
Call her
do.
mock her in the
they
same
do.
way.
They mock her. They mock her and they say
Who?
that she's
When's the last time you've heard? Ha ha! Look at that girl. She does. She can't. She can't get a man.
Well, that is so dishonest. That is so dishonest. I will tell you why that's dishonest, and you're fucking lying through your fucking teeth right now. Okay, women are shamed for it. They're called spinsters. They're called old cat ladies. They're called women who will never get a man. They're barren. Their wombs are dried up. They never had kids, and they didn't fulfill.
These are
their
all
purpose
for like
in life. So
super
fuck
old
you.
women. Every
Fuck
single one of
you.
these are for really old
they're
women.
also called entitled as well, which is
Yeah,
we're
they're
seeing
called
here on
entitled,
this
they're called
panel.
bitches.
Hey, wait, can I ask you a question? I've talked to Smeth about this. Do you think, and you can share however much for yourself as you want to, I'm not going to push you to, but do you think that the average man can talk about their sexuality in any way that doesn't perfectly fit the
No.
expected norm? Because
No.
my understanding is that men don't talk to women about their sexual feelings for real, and they sure as fuck aren't honest with other men about it because they are
Nope.
terrified of actually being open about any of it. Because if you're a fucking disgusting pig or you're a weirdo. Anything that doesn't meet exactly what the other person you're talking to expects of you, you're
Preach.
actually the worst person in the
Preach.
entire world all of
Okay,
a
so-
sudden.
And women, on the other hand, women are yes queens. Like, oh, that's so
They're not.
empowering. Yes
they're not.
queen.
They're
No,
not.
There
they're
are
not.
more
not.
people
No, they're not.
boosting up women being sexual
not
than there
the
are men. Nobody,
You guys are in-
zero
you guys
people
are-
are
you guys
saying
are in a very
you
niche
want to jerk
community.
you want to
You
jerk
guys are in a
off
very niche community when you look at
to
society.
dommy
as a
mommies. Go off, King.
Society
Never
as a
happened
whole
ever.
does not treat men and women this way. Society as a whole does not treat men and women this way. We are in a very niche space right now. When we, one, I need to address what Elder Drazi said, these are not labels that are thrown only at old women. They're thrown at women in their 30s and 20s as well. They are told that they are spinsters. They're going to grow up and be spinsters. They're never going to fulfill
They're going to
their
grow up and
professional
be
life.
spinsters
They're
because
never
it's
gonna
for old
have
people.
kids. They're never going to have kids. They're going to be old cat ladies who can't get a man because she's too whatever. Okay? Secondly, women are not Yas queened over fucking sexuality. Are you fucking
More
kidding me?
than men.
Most of our-
It happens zero for men.
Bullshit.
No, they're not.
Bullshit.
The vast majority of society shames women for sexuality, and the vast majority of society is always talking about, oh yeah, guys, I totally slept with that
Men
girl. Oh,
are
yeah, guys,
celebrated
you know,
by society at large if they meet exactly
if they
the standard
they're
that everyone
celebrated for having
expects of them.
sex.
What is
They're
it
If a
matter?
guy
celebrated for
if a
the
guy
privilege of
fucks a
having
woman that is younger
for
and
having
very
sex.
pretty to the general
And
public, then yes.
getting
But if a man
paid
actually expresses
for
an
having
individual sexual identity at all, it is you are actually the worst fucking person in the world.
You are fucking delusional if you think that.
What if-
Men are literally
I
praised for
have
having
actually
every
made a
time they
point
have
of my
sex,
content
high
to
fiving
discuss
with their
this with
friends, like,
men. Yeah,
crazy.
you are
Crazy.
literally talking about the thing that I said is the problem. It is only when it perfectly meets exactly what society's expectation of men is. That's it.
I have a question for
It
you,
is
Elder
the- you
Drazi,
have to
on
fit
that
this
topic.
exact
Okay?
mold.
Do you think
great
that
job.
men or
You're
women
not a
are
fucking
more
weirdo.
shamed for being a part of a BDSM relationship?
Depends what kind it is.
True.
Okay.
So if I'm in a DDLG dynamic, I'm a fucking weirdo, and obviously
Or a
she's just
FLR.
working out her stuff. Like
Or
I
FLR
might actually
dynamic.
be participating in abusing her. Like I no matter no matter what the situation is, I'm always the weird one in that. There's no way around it.
Or if it's female-led relationship dynamic where she's
Now I'm a
like
simp.
she's yeah.
We're talking.
Do you think a
these
man
are
can
niche-
stay at home and not be
these
made
are
fun of?
These are
And be the
niche
house husband and not be made fun of? If you think
are
that, then
niche
you need to get off the fucking internet
problems.
and touch some
These
grass.
are niche problems. No.
Niche
obviously
problems? What are you talking about?
But they're
I'm not
all going to
talking
be.
You can't
about
even
what
save
you
people's
said,
lives in a
Wick.
hospital
I'm not
being a
talking about
nurse.
what you said, Wick. I'm talking about the BDSM DDLG shit, okay? When we're talking, yes, obviously, if men stay
Now
at
we're
home
cooking.
and take care of the kids, yeah, they will be shamed more than women will. But
Yep.
again, it's still a situation where if you look at the studies of women who actually are stay-at-home moms, they're on average way more depressed than women who are working. They're way more financially insecure. They're way more, they have like way more problems. That it's not a fun thing to be a stay-at-home parent, male or female.
This is the shame or oppression Olympics happening right now, and I'm just fucking dying
is.
inside.
Well, so a couple of things that I wanted to
Oh.
respond to. So number one, like I wanted to go back to something that Wick said earlier, which is that like for women, the only thing that they have to be is pretty in order to be married. Very specifically married
No,
is
in order to be in a relationship.
Okay,
Can we
Okay,
get
so
one
let me
honest
ask-
criticism
let
of
me
something
ask-
that's
might
actually
not
been
ever
said?
By the way, where a guy
Yeah.
might not ever marry, he's just going to string you along for 8 years.
Yeah. But the other side of this is, Wick, and the reason why I don't agree with you in that is this, okay? So that's true only I think this is another critique that I think was made of red pill like specifically, which is that there is this idea that all women have to be is like very young, low body count, and they have to be beautiful. And if you can be those things, then you can bag an extremely wealthy and extremely quote unquote high value man. And like for many men who run within these circles, that's not true. For many men, and the reason why it's not true is that if you come from an upper middle class family or from an upper class family, and it is expected within those families that you marry someone who is, I'm sorry, and this is not necessarily a good thing, but it is a true thing that you date someone who is roughly within your own social circle. So if you're somebody and you are going to become a doctor, and you bring somebody to the family dinner that evening who is not going to college, who isn't really good at school, who isn't working out, who isn't focusing on themselves whatsoever, who is living in their parents' basement, you will be ridiculed and shamed by
Men
your family
have to
as
be
a consequence.
a higher standard than women.
No,
a woman
but women,
doesn't
but
have
women,
to
but
have that same
no,
social
no, no, no,
class.
no. That's what I'm saying.
That's what
Men
you're
will be,
saying.
no,
I
no, no,
agree.
that's not
That
what I'm
doesn't
saying. What
help
I'm
your
saying
point.
is that
That
men will
helps
be,
mine.
no,
Nick,
that's not what I'm
sorry,
saying.
Nick, are
That's
you
not,
the debater or are you the fucking moderator, Wayne?
Both
Get in
today,
your lane.
and I can be
listen,
that.
okay?
Fucking
That's,
lane,
that's
okay?
not,
Get in your
that's not what
fucking
I'm saying.
lane.
What I'm saying is if you as a man, if you go to your upper middle class family Thanksgiving and you bring somebody as your girlfriend to the family dinner who, I'm sorry, like this is just true, who isn't at this, who doesn't have the same level of education, who
An
doesn't have the same
OnlyFans
income
girl.
level, who hasn't worked on themselves like in the same degree as you have, you will be, your parents will yell at you. They will yell at you. They will shame you. They will ask, why have you brought this woman to the dinner table? And this does lead into some bad dynamics, but it's just a true thing. This is, I mean, I'm literally giving you the plot of The Great Gatsby, okay? There is a reason why
Your
Jay
parents will
Gatsby,
just be happy you're not gay.
okay? No, that's not true.
That's
If
what
you come,
Crystal Johnson said. Thank you for that quip, Crystal Johnson.
there's a reason. There's a reason, like why if you are some, if you aspire to be the king of England, you can't marry just anyone, and you can't just have anybody as your girlfriend. If
Okay,
you want to be,
most people
if you
aren't
wanna
the
be a
fucking
politician,
king of England. I
This
agree
is-
with you in
this
the
is what
world
I mean.
families.
right,
We're
right,
not
right,
talking about that.
ridiculous
right, but
circumstances
let
to
me read-
disqualify.
most people, right?
Let
but
me read
most
some of
people,
these
right,
super
but
chats.
most people, okay,
Let her finish.
Finish, and then I'll
Go
read
ahead,
the super
Fairy
chat.
Queen.
okay. Look, this can. I'm not saying this is an entirely positive fact. It can actually be really bad and it can be like pretty discriminatory and even racist at times, but it's just true. You can't just bring anyone to your family gathering or to your friends' gatherings, even as a man, and show off this person as your girlfriend, and they can't just be pretty. They can't just be pretty, a virgin, and know nothing. If you bring somebody like that to your family gathering or somebody to your friends' gathering, you will be mocked, you will be shamed, and you will be bullied. You might have a relationship very
This
briefly with
only
that person,
applies
but
to
you'll
the
be
1%,
bullied.
to the top, like top
It doesn't
10%.
just it
No, it
applies.
doesn't.
No, it
Most
doesn't. No, it
people,
doesn't. No, it
does not.
doesn't.
It's not
No,
Middle
it
true.
doesn't.
class.
To the
Do you think
degree to
middle
which it would
class-
affect the average person, most people aren't really going to give that much of a shit about it if they're satisfied
Do
with the
you
women
think-
they're bringing along.
Okay, look. Okay, the
Do you
women
think
that I
your
bring.
parents would be okay with you?
$5 from Skilltree Gaming is the argument the perfect is the enemy of the good. I could agree with that. If people would rather be alone if that makes you happier. $5 from Testicle Johnson. They say a lot of men suffer from premature ejaculation, but I say it's the women who suffer. Thank you for the $5, gang. Cryborn for $5. Again, if you haven't orgasmed ever, you can't blame your partners. You can blame patriarchal Puritans, though. Thank you for $5. And $2 from Cryborn. Incels, the new spinsters? Question mark. Thank you for $2. Okay.
You should
carry on.
see
I mean,
the
this is ju-
fucking
I mean-
weird looks that I get when I bring the fucking weirdo women over. Nobody says anything, but I
No,
do.
no,
like,
it's well, but it is
Yeah.
true. So, like, it may not be true for your friend, but it's definitely true with your family. And to address the upper class,
Very,
and like
it's
this
a
is only the
very
1%.
privileged take,
it-
Fairy Queen. Go
Not
ahead.
necessarily.
No,
That's not.
no,
No, it's
like,
not.
I
What
will-
yeah.
Wait, it's
in
almost as if the
religious-
generalization
in religious,
Oh, I'm
really doesn't work for the individuals.
Tuna
Okay.
Chip. I forgot. Tuna Chip for $5 gift sub. Yeah, for his sub. Everyone gets what they deserve in dating, so whoever is most discontent with what they get in life is the most entitled. Closed case. Thank you
yeah,
for
that's
the
what
five.
I'm saying. Everybody's fighting over who's shamed more, and it's just like
I'm not. But like what I'm.
No, but we're talking about society, what society pushes on men and women. And if let's say society pushes that, okay, women only have to be pretty to get a man and be in a relationship. Even if that were the case, if you are a woman who is not conventionally attractive, and trust me, I've been in that bucket, it is devastating for you because you're never valued, no matter how many achievements that you get, no matter how much money you make, no matter what you've done in your professional life, you will never be valued the same way that somebody next to you who is prettier than you and younger than you is going to be valued.
It's also 'cause you're a streamer.
I agree with Fairy Queen on what she's saying about this is not necessarily the truth, because I think plenty of middle class families would have a huge problem and throw a huge hissy fit if a guy brought home a girl from the trailer park who, who's conventionally attractive, but she has a meth habit, so yeah, don't act like you don't have any standards, right?
Yeah.
Secondly, even if
It's a
that is the
ridiculous
case, right?
example.
Again, even then, if that's the case, right? Women who are, even when we talk about women who only need to be pretty or whatever, right? That fades. As soon as you get old, you lose all your fucking value as a human being.
Can you name a circumstance where anybody can ever bring a meth head to their family gathering and not get shit for it?
You're-
Like, what are these
you're talking
examples?
what was said in this conversation is that women only need to be attractive. You guys didn't say anything about methods. You didn't say anything about living. in a
Women
trailer
being
In a
park.
attractive
relationship,
allows
it's
them
true.
to
How can you hold on?
do this, period.
If you have a like the outliers being if they're literally like fucking crazy in an asylum, okay, we could set those aside. But for 99% of women, and yes, there's all you have to do. You don't even have to be beautiful.
I would say
You
more
just
than
have to be
1%
pretty
crazy.
to an extent, right? Fair enough. That's a fair point, Seth. I'll take that into consideration. But all you have to do, if you want a relationship, now I can't say that's going to be a good relationship. I can't say that's going to be something that's going to sustain itself. But if you want a relationship as a woman, the only quality that you have to be is pretty. That's it.
Okay, so
Not
she can
for
have a
long.
meth habit.
Wait, I want to say
She can
something to
have
your
a meth
guys'
habit and
credit.
She can live in the trailer
That's
park.
just
I think
Okay,
Stardust
that's
and
it.
Fairy Queen should both get good donations because they're going to need massages for their shoulders after this is over with how hard they've been reaching to counter these examples all night.
Oh,
It's
no, I'm
fucking
sorry. I'm not
insane.
the one who's delusional here who can't acknowledge. Okay, even let's say women are.
Fairy
valued
Queen literally
only for
said if you aspire to be the king of England,
You're
and then said it's not
fucking-
most
brought up
people,
the
it's
King of England
everybody but
earlier,
one
okay?
person. I did
I'm
not.
No,
sorry,
it's not-
I'm sorry,
it's not
I'm
you-
sorry. I'm sorry. If you are somebody, if it is the reality, if in this magical world where women are only valued for their looks, right? And don't get me wrong, women are very
That is
heavily.
the
Wait,
reverse problem, right?
Wait, shut the fuck up. Okay, what I'm saying is, if you're in this position, let's be real here. Society does value women for their looks more than anything else in their life. They value them for other things too, but their looks more, right? Even in that case, you as a woman should still be selective because, again, you are taking a massive risk when you choose to settle down with somebody, and you never know because, again, most domestic violence either starts when you get pregnant or escalates when you get pregnant. The number one, or not number one, but the leading cause of death for pregnant women in America is homicide by their significant others. So you should be selective. So I'm sorry, guys. That's the reality of it. Them's them apples, okay? You have to accept that.
And I just wanted to respond to like something that like Wick said. So I would agree with you. Like, the
Wait,
take I'm
did you
giving
just say
like,
homicide is the
Elder
number one
Drowsy, I
killer
love
of
you, but
women?
please be quiet because I'm
I
trying
didn't
to
say
talk to
number
Wick.
one. I said
Okay,
leading.
Wick,
I said leading. I corrected
Wick-
myself.
Wick, I agree with
What's that
you
mean?
that like what I'm saying, yes, like what I'm saying like does apply to people like in specific socioeconomic strata. It is a privilege take for some people to have these things, but it's not merely a privilege take. It is
It's
just
not.
true that like in some communities of people, there are some groups of people where if you bring somebody who is outside of the expected norm to your dinner table as your partner, even if they're attractive, like even as a man, like even if you bring an attractive woman, that it's not going to be enough. And a good example of this is if you're in a religious community. So I know like in my family, a huge deal that's placed on both of my brothers, like of the partners that they want to have is she Catholic? That's one of the first question that's asked. Is she Catholic? Does she go to church? And if my brothers brought an atheist woman like to the dinner table as their girlfriend, as their potential future partner, my parents would not be happy with that. My parents would be upset with that. It's also true that like there are aspects of the people
If she was pretty enough, the mom might still be mad, but the dad would understand.
No, but the dad wouldn't like it either.
What happens
No,
when you
that's
bring
not
an
true.
ugly
That's
girl?
not true.
What happens when you bring an
that's
ugly
not true.
girl? Like
That's not-
men are like pissed off. Like, oh, I wish I was only valued for my looks. Fuck, no, you fucking don't. It's like when you bring an ugly, like I'm more likely to get comments, especially like after if I bring an ugly girl to like over and it's like everybody's gonna be like, oh, like, oh, look, like, oh, she seems smart or like weird shit. Also, even if I bring like a pretty girl, everybody's only gonna be fucking talking about how she looks. But that's the problem. Like the problem in women's like women are being so picky because we give their prettiness and their youth so much power, and then they have like so many options. They're overwhelmed. They have so many shitty men. They have to be so careful because we're valuing them like retardedly. We need to stop.
No,
only-
I would say the reason like why we encourage women to be picky is that like when women are not picky, when they are less choosy, then the after effects of them not being picky is not just bad for them individually, it's bad for their families, and it's bad for their friends, and it's bad for their
And their
local
children?
communities and their children and everyone else around them. That's why
I don't
we
think
that's why
anybody
we
said
heavily
anything about
encourage and
broadly
push women
pickiness.
to be picky. It's
There
because
are
of
two
those
worlds.
consequences.
There are two worlds that we can. Mr. Moderator, I think you've taken enough fucking space in this.
I just want to read a question
There-
from Tuna Chip, but go ahead.
There are two options here. Okay, there's one that I want that seems to be what nobody else is willing to advocate for. But I would like to create a society in which women don't have to be picky, because that's going to be the society that I'm going to be the most happy in. But the other option is we can make a society where a lot more men are sad and lonely than women, and that like those are the two options we have.
Look, at the end
I
of the
will
day,
just tell you like
if
what
you wanna
I
picky
want
yourself
for
into
my
a lonely
society.
grave,
I
you
want a
can.
society where people
Oh.
are married to each other, who are genuinely attracted to each other, and who are with partners who they feel deserves them and who they are genuinely. And I also want a society where those marriages for people who choose to have kids have happy marriages and relationships, so that their kids are happy, so that their communities are happy, so that the future that they build together are happier as a consequence. And I think that when we tell women to be less choosy and less picky, you're not just hurting those women individually. You're hurting their children and you're hurting their families as well.
But you're
Okay.
you're conflating two things. You're conflating their pickiness, that it's going to be self-protective so they don't get like raped and killed. You're conflating that with
It's not
stuff
even just that.
How many of these issues go away if we don't accept monogamy as
You're
the
conflating
default?
them.
How picky do you really have to be if you can have more
Oh my
than one
God.
partner? Well, I just
I don't
saying,
think
all
it's
all this
one.
assumes that you can only have one
Women.
partner. If you can have more than one partner, maybe you can have several people meeting different needs. Maybe not everybody needs to be like totally bloated with money, because if you have a bunch of people working together towards a common
One
goal.
woman can cuck an infinite number of men. That is true. So
Okay, here's the thing about that. Is that men pretty often prefer monogamy because they know who the father is of their children. They know it's them. So if they have a more bigger financial incentive to contribute and to be supportive of those children, and be supportive of their wife, because that wife is carrying their child. That is just the reality of it. That's why monogamy is preferred by a lot of men and by a lot of women too.
That's also why you can plan out,
yeah.
pregnancies and things like that. You can use contraceptive and all that, and you actually plan having children as well. It doesn't have to be like, oh, well, like this just freak
Yeah,
accident
but
happened that we don't
the
know.
reality is, like,
And there's
again,
also testing.
I think women are still seen as like a pretty in a very property-esque type of way. So,
Yeah, I think that's wrong, and I
in a
think
lot of
monogamy
ways,
certainly
yeah.
plays into that. Didn't we just say earlier that the way that women entered into a relationship was by being sold off as property to a single man? I think that monogamy is essentially a product of like sexist, like essentially women trading.
I do. I also have a question. Is like, when you guys talk about a woman only needs to be pretty or needs to be good looking in some way, right? How many
Wait,
women don't
to
fall into
what?
that category?
To what though? To
What Wick was
enter
saying,
into a
to
relationship.
be in a relationship. Yeah. How
Yeah.
many women don't fall into the category? And what
all of them.
happens to those
So-
women?
All ugly.
So it's all relative, right? You have to be pretty enough, right?
Look, the
for whatever you're
prettiness-
going for. Obviously,
There's a bell
obviously,
curve.
if
How pretty you are
yeah,
versus
if you're
how lonely
going
the guy
for-
is.
like if you're going for like a 10 out of 10 guy, you're gonna have to be like at least an 8, right? I think within 2
I don't
points.
know.
There are
I
men
think.
who are
Either way.
forced.
How did you see the women that Tiger Woods-
Yeah,
cheat
and
on
then, you
his
know
wife
what?
with?
That's true, and they're retarded, and us men, we tell them
No,
they're
they're not.
retarded for
No,
doing
they're
that.
not.
We
What
do.
if they make a fucking shit ton of money? Then they can do it. So
Wait,
that's
it's not true.
retarded.
You have to
They
be an
can do
8.
it, but there are tons of men who do not make a ton of money, and there are tons of
They
men
are
who
retarded.
there are tons of men who feel entitled to a woman who is moderately attractive, who are not very attractive
Well,
themselves.
what if they
Yep.
have a heart of gold, Stardust?
Well, I mean, like, look, again, that these women who are probably going to be, there are plenty of women out there who are like not conventionally attractive by society standards, who are probably not fitting into these categories that you guys are talking
Well,
about.
Fairy Queen said you can always make yourself more attractive. They can just go to the gym, and since that's like women's
Yeah, they can.
superpower, they can just gym themselves into a relationship. Then,
Okay.
following this logic.
Okay, we are running on to the end of the show. It's been a passionate project. Thank you for coming. Do we want to do call-ins? How are we feeling, gang? How are we feeling? If we want to
I'm
fill
so
some
fucking
call-ins, we
tired.
do that? Okay, then
Yeah,
we
I
can
think
get
I
it.
think
Then
we
we can
gotta.
get it. Okay, so I'm gonna go to closings, but first, if you've liked this content, if you've enjoyed this content, consider supporting the channel. Hit that like button, hit that subscribe button if you're following me on Twitch or Kick, hit that follow button. Gang, I want to get Dragon's Dogma 2. I need a little more money to do it. Consider super chatting or gifting some subs on Twitch. That would help me. I want to play Dragon's Dogma 2. That's my selfish ask for you today. Okay, with that, tomorrow we're going to have Hutch on, we're going to have Rico on, we're going to have Counterpoints on, and we're going to have Vito on, and we're going to be talking about Gamergate 2. Right? Are games woke nowadays? Are they more woke? We're going to find out. It's going to be fun. But I want to give a chance for each of these individuals to tell us who they are, where we can find them, and closing statements. And we're going to start with the reverse order we went in. We're going to start with Stardust, and we're going to work our way. And Alderdrazi gets the last word. Stardust, go.
Okay. So just for closing statement, right? I'm not saying men don't have it hard, right? Men are most likely to be victims of murders, right? But these are men doing most of these murders, right? When we look at what the risk is for women, majority of the risk that comes to women in their lives comes from their own domestic household, right? Usually their partner. So females are most likely to be victims of domestic homicides and sex-related homicides. Those are the top things. So when selecting for a partner, you have to be careful, and you have to have standards. And don't get me wrong, again, like I said, women in their 20s who are only aiming for a guy who's over 6 feet tall and doesn't care if he's a fucking scumbag, that's fucking stupid as fuck, right? But again, there's plenty of data to support why women should be cautious of men, especially when we know that one of the leading causes of death for pregnant women is their partners. It is their partners. And again, males constitute 98.9% of those arrested for forcible rape, 87.9% for robbery, 85% for burglary, 83% for arson, 81.7% for vandalism, 81.5% for motor vehicle theft, 79.7% for offenses
Men
against
bad
family
again.
and children, 77.8% of those also men make up 77.8% for aggravated assault.
77.8% of men.
So my point in saying all this is that yeah, we need laws that empower women to own guns and not men. We need laws to make men work all the hard labor jobs. Because honestly, technology is the great equalizer, and the only thing that we really need men for is for hard labor jobs. And they should just do that and be the workhorses of society, because that's all they're good for. I'm Stardust. You can find my channel, my YouTube channel is Stardust Streams. I don't actually hate men. But yeah. So yeah, that's it for me. So.
Okay, thank you, Stardust. And gang, go check her out. She's great. Give her a like, give her a follow, give her a sub, all those things.
I'm working on a video essay right now.
Cool.
It'll be out soon.
Be out soon. Look forward to that. Gang, I got one of the names wrong for yesterday, and or for tomorrow, and I feel really bad. It's not Vito. It's a guy named Huvian. So my bad. Yeah, I know. I messed up. I was looking at one thing and I read the wrong thing. So I apologize to both those individuals. Let's go to
Invite him.
Smith,
Invite
please.
Vito.
I mean, if Vito wants to come, he can. But go ahead.
Anyway, look. When you are like, I agree with what Eldridge already said to Fairy Queen. If you are giving this generalized like based on like statistics on a broad spectrum to like what men like me and Drazi, and I don't know like where Wick is from and shit, but men like me and Drazi, like if you are in Northampton, Massachusetts, and you're going by the dating advice that's like based on a broad fucking spectrum, and you're gonna treat good men like absolute dog shit, and so it absolutely makes no sense to do this generalized shit. You should be like focused on what the people around you are like. Like men, I don't know what to tell you. Not all men actually rape and kill people. Like actually most of them don't. So, it's like I just don't think you should. Look, I think we're so we're so focused on trying to win this fucking like war of like who has it worse and shit, and we're not focusing on actually what the issues are, because the issues would have to make us be a little bit more empathetic. I know that I freak people out, okay? Well, I'm gonna freak you out a lot more. And when my essay comes out, Becoming Max, you're gonna read it and you're gonna shit your fucking pants, and you're not gonna fucking be able to stop yourself from fucking creaming all over the place, okay? So that's coming out soon.
Wait,
I
we're
want you to be
shitting
halfway
and
there.
coming?
Yeah, shitting and coming at the same time. You're making a fucking
Jesus.
stew.
Oh God.
Well, I'm halfway there, Smith.
Okay, gang. Where can they find your upcoming essay?
It's gonna be on my Substack, but you'll see it. I'll post it in your
Look
your
out for that.
Discord.
Look out for that, gang. Check him out. Smith, really appreciate you being here. And as for where I am, I'm from your dreams, baby. Okay, this is where I'm from. Okay, I'm from the ethereal lands of the time that the land that time forgot. Okay, Fairy Queen, please.
So there are 3 very quick things that I wanted to end tonight's note on, okay? And that's like, okay, remember the title of tonight's panel was like, are women too entitled, right? Should women be encouraged to be less entitled in what they ask for, like when they choose to date someone? And me and Star's position tonight was no. And there are 3 responses that I have to what Elder Drazi and to what Wick. Well, you haven't said all of these things, but you've said some of them. Number 1, okay, you cannot force someone to feel attracted to something that they do not feel attracted to. You cannot sit down in front of a group of women when they say that they do not feel attracted to these men and tell them, "Oh, well, that's really
Not a
dumb
single
that you're not."
person has said this.
I'm sorry. Is it closing statements?
Wait, was I not muted? I hit mute
You
on
were
my
not.
thing. Oh,
You're not muted.
so that was.
Almost had a Voss
Oh.
moment there. Fairy Queen, please continue.
Okay, so
there's
actually,
a huge
I'm
delay
just gonna
on it.
pause right here. Okay, Elder Drazi, I appreciate your conversation. You know, I feel like we've had
I
some good
apologize
back
for
and
that.
forth, right? But
I should interrupt.
thank you. But I will say, you know, like you have interrupted me quite a bit. I've tried not to interrupt you. You've interrupted Star quite a bit. And I dislike it, like when I'm trying to have and I think I've been trying to have a relatively calm conversation with you, that it's been met with, you know, these reactions throughout tonight. So I'm going to finish, and you will finish, and then we will hop off. So the first one, okay? So you can't force people to feel attracted to something that they don't feel attracted to. No amount of sitting down in front of a 20-year-old and telling her that she shouldn't want to date somebody who's 6'2", who has a lot of money, however ridiculous you think those standards are, you sitting down and explaining that to somebody is not going to make them want what they do not want. So I don't know why, like, you think that, like, it's informing a ton of women they feel so entitled is going to make them feel less entitled if you buy that as a premise in the first place. So I think it's doomed from the get-go, number 1. Number 2, this is just true. Society is better when women are pickier. Society is better when women are pickier for a couple, because when women are pickier with who they choose to date, they are more likely to choose partners who are more likely to support them and to take care of them when they're pregnant, more likely to protect them. And when we say protect, we don't mean, you know, going off and getting into fights at the bar, right? Or like charging the guy that comes in the front door. We mean someone who is going to be there for you when you get cancer. Someone who is going to pick up the groceries, like when you're sick and you need chicken noodle soup. Someone who is going to be able to help your son finish his
don't
algebra
think
homework
that's
after dinner. That's what we mean. We mean someone who has the
what that
ability to
means.
step up to the plate and to be a responsible partner. That is more likely to happen if you push women to be picky as opposed to not being picky. And the consequences of not pushing that, the burden that is borne on that is not the individual unhappiness of mom and dad. It's the unhappiness of their kids and the unhappiness of their aunts and uncles who now also have to help to take care of those kids because mom decided to date somebody who was a bad fit. And the grandparents who now have to step in. The larger community has to step in. This is the consequence of telling women not to be picky with who they choose to date. It's that they wind up creating families or relationships that negatively impact the people around them. And that's why we as a society take interest in the individual dating decisions that people make. It's because it's not just about you having a negotiation with another person. It's your life, all of the people in your life making contact with all of the people in their life, and you choosing to come together to create a family structure together. That's why we care, and that's why we push women to be picky. And finally, the obvious point that like Star has, God bless her, has pounded this over and over again. Women are safer when they're pickier. And I understand that like it hurts and it bruises a lot of men's feelings to hear the statistics about rape and crime. And I understand that nobody likes hearing that. And I understand that like the vast majority of men that I bump into off the street are probably decent people, right? Like probably not people who are going to beat me in an alleyway. But the problem is that when I am just trying to look for a partner, I don't know that. I don't have a crystal ball. I don't have telepathy. I'm not Charles Xavier. I can't see into your headspace to know that for certain. All I can do is have a list of criteria to make it far less likely that that will happen to me. Like if I choose to marry you and if I choose to be in a relationship with you. So be picky. Men, you should be pickier too. Everyone should be pickier. Everyone should have a long set of standards. If there is anything to critique, it's not that women are too entitled. It's that men need to step up to the plate and need to borrow some of the things on women's list and place it into their own priorities when they are also choosing a mate.
My God.
I wish my dad
Where can
was
people find you? Hold on.
At
Where can people
Fairy
find you?
at Fairy Queen's Cottage and at Fairy_Queen on Twitter. Thank you.
No, thank you for being here. Check her out. 2 super chats and we'll get to Eldrazi. $5 from Turtle Emergency. For the record, Fairy's answer was excellent. I think we men have to accept the L in this discussion. Thank you for the $5, but never. Okay, $10, 10 pounds actually, from RPG. Since when is it acceptable to judge a group by the actions of less than 2%? Thank you for the 10 pounds, RPG. And last but certainly not least, the one, the only, Eldrazi. Go ahead.
First off, I want to say that my bad on that. It worked throughout the entire stream. My mute button. I genuinely wasn't trying to interrupt anybody. That is embarrassing to me because I was trying to interrupt Fairy Queen before because I felt like every response I was getting was mischaracterizing what I was saying, and that's when I think it's appropriate to interrupt somebody. Say, "Hey, I didn't say that," and I'm not gonna let somebody talk for 5 minutes explaining why something I didn't say is wrong, implying that I did. Anyways, I don't pull that personally against you. This is a panel. This is a debate. That's just how this shit goes. And if anything, to extend an olive branch, you seem to have thought a lot about this stuff. I'm hosting a relationship advice show in the near future, and I am looking for rotating guest hosts. If you want to be one of them, I look for people that have opposing positions to mine, so that way the people that call in can get a broad amount of advice instead of just a single perspective. If you're ever interested in being a part of that, just DM me and I'll set you up on that. Otherwise, Eldrazi, YouTube, Twitter, all of it, Kick, all of it, Twitch. Thanks, Wick, for having me on. Smith, I wish you and I could have talked a little bit more on this because we have some interesting disagreements and some interesting agreements.
Unlike yours with everyone else.
Just real quick, Smith, are you streaming after this?
Everybody else a lot.
Why do you ask?
I can rate in someone?
No, I'm not.
Okay. Who's streaming after this?
I'm so exhausted.
Stardust is streaming. We'll go to Stardust. Okay, I just wanted to make sure. Drazi, finish your statement. I didn't mean to interrupt. Go ahead.
No, you're good. I've been up for 27 hours. I'm a little bit more agitated than normal. Well, I have got a lot of shit going on. Also, I just want to say, because not everybody knows this, I do come from a pretty, I guess, privileged position in all of this. I'm married, and I'm married to somebody that is, basically meets all of my preferences. I like pale skin, and I met and married an albino woman who likes fucking playing Magic and anime and shit. Okay. Like, fucking nailed this. So, like, maybe I'm a little bit biased. Maybe I don't have exactly, like, the best, perspective, and I look like me, so like super lucky person. I get it. So if you want to criticize anything, criticize that. Huh?
Okay.
Your wife?
Gang?
I'm Italian.
No. Gang? Thanks for being here. It's been fun. I guess for me,
thanks for having us.
The last thing I'll say, right? Because I think this is important. It goes beyond the relationships. It's just true in general. Happiness is a choice. It really, really is. So it's not like something that you were intrinsically born with, and unless you meet these certain standards in life that you'll never be happy. That's not how this works, gang. Our desires, our wants, what we want out of life can and are influenced throughout our life, by a wide variety of factors. So never let anyone tell you that you can't change, because you can. You can change what you want. If it ain't working for you, if the only thing you're attracted to is 6'6" Giga Chads, right? It ain't gonna work out for you. It's not gonna go well, right? You can change what you like. It takes effort, it takes time, but you can do that. Now, you shouldn't always do that, but there are times when it would be good to do. Let's rate out. We're going to go to Stardust. Let her know that Wick sent you, and spam those hate emotes. Okay.
All right, bye.
Bye.
Thank you,
you.
Wick. Thank you for hosting the panel. Very much appreciate it.
Well, thank you. Bye-bye.
out.
Bye-bye,
And
everyone.
also, I don't hate
Yeah.
men.
All right, guys. There's a cool amount of people in here. You're white, Eldrazi. Don't claim my European culture. You're white American. Like I said, our Italian's white is a conversation for another day. I don't want to rehash that right now. But a cool amount of people here. Thanks you guys for being here. Hopefully you like the stream at some point. I'm gonna get some sleep. I'm exhausted. I know I got a couple of subscribers on YouTube. That's very cool. I appreciate you. I'm pretty sure I'm streaming tomorrow. I've just been super busy this week and had a really whack sleep schedule, so I haven't been streaming. I'm trying to, but by the time I get home, I usually have like stuff to do, or like I know I'm not going to be bringing the energy that I want to. But I feel like maybe being tired maybe made me a bit more entertaining, if nothing else, if not a bit more agitatable. And I got my headphones back. Today is very cool because I don't have the fucking bulky, ugly bullshit, not good in any way in comparison gaming headset. So I'm really, really happy about that. That'll make it a lot easier for me to decide to stream. But yeah, almost certainly see you guys tomorrow.